Greetings, imagination connoisseurs. Once again, it is I, your Duke of Dope Discourse, Robert Meyer Burnett. I invite you to watch and listen to the Designing Hollywood podcast, brought to you by Martika Ibarra and the great, legendary Hollywood costume designer, Marilyn Vance. I am afforded the wonderful opportunity of co-hosting the show. If you are interested in the magic of Hollywood, the design of Hollywood, the clothes of Hollywood, watch the Designing Hollywood podcast, available wherever you get your podcasts from, or find the video version on the John Campea YouTube channel. That's right, the Designing Hollywood podcast. Why would you ever want to miss it, especially if you love the movies?
There's a company called Hot Toys, and they make these insanely realistic, renderings of characters. They do them for all the Marvel characters or whatever, and they look so much like you. It's disturbing, actually. Like, scary. They look so much like you, but they're tiny. They're like 18 inches or something like that. They actually that's what's crazy about that company is they hand make the, like, they carve the mold of, thank you, of the.
That's crazy.
It's wild.
Robservations with Robert Meyer Burnett.
Well, greetings, imagination connoisseurs. Once again, it is I, your Duke of Dope Discourse, or as someone in the chat said, Stephen Hawking without a wheelchair. I don't know what that means. I'm Robert Meyer Burnett, and this is Midnight Musings, episode number 65. Wow, 65 episodes of Musing at Midnight, and you're all here still for it, which is great. Of course, you know, it's not a show unless I have my better halves. The first of which is here. You know her, you love her. She's billowing already. The lovely And
Hi,
how are
Robert.
you?
I am great. How are you? It's so good to be back on Midnight Musings, Robert.
I know.
You?
You know, I'm good. It's been a busy week full of projects and things, and you know, between shooting second units of movies, Tango Shalom premiering in Germany on the 13th. You know, it was crazy seeing clips of the movie dubbed in German. I was dubbed. They dubbed me. They dubbed Moses. Moses speaks in German now. Of course, you could say the same thing about him speaking in English, which really wasn't even invented when he was around. But anyway, so that's okay. So that's happening. White Devils, we're still making that. We're going to finish that up, submitting it to festivals now. We'll see what happens. You know, I got my Matt Damon, my third scale from The Martian.
Oh, yeah,
This
that looks great.
it's easily one of the figures of the year. I love this figure. It's so great.
You said 1/3 scale?
No, this is 6 scale.
6 scale, okay.
Because I love my astronauts, and you know, this is third party, but this is Hot Toys quality. It's a great, great, great figure, and I love The Martian, so I am happy to have it.
Yeah, that is a fantastic figure. And honestly, these third-party figures are getting better and better. And I'm just so glad that there are alternatives, that there's some competition out there that are also producing figures. And a lot of times figures that aren't necessarily the most popular ones out there, but people still want to buy them. And the lower price points are fantastic. You can still mix them in with your more expensive Hot Toys or licensed characters. I think it's a wonderful option for collectors now. It's a great time to be a collector, Robert.
Well, the funny thing is, I mean, there's no reputable company that would be able to afford a license for,
Right.
and who would, no one, no, a $200 figure based on Ridley Scott's The Martian. It's, I mean, we love it. Love these one-off sci-fi figures, but no one would make this except a third party, and I'm glad they did because I love this. I love this movie, and it's got two different head sculpts, you know, and one of them is the clean Matt Damon, and the other one is the dirty facial hair Matt Damon, And if they had to pay a licensing fee or they had to pay a likeness fee, they could never afford to make the figure in the first place, and it would never get done. And it's funny because there's so many, like, I'm waiting for someone to do. We have a third party. There's been a third party Blade Runner and Blade Runner 2049 set. When are they going to do the replicants? Where are we going to get Leon, Pris, Zora, and Roy Batty? Who's going to do that? And it's unfortunate that a lot of these figures, because, Marvel and Star Wars sell, but how many of these really are they going to buy? Or how many are they going to sell?
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I just got my third party, the White Wolf, which is essentially the Witcher.
Though, yeah, that's a great figure.
Yeah, and I'm thrilled with it. But I've also picked up my Locutus figure from X06.
Another great figure.
Yeah, it is fantastic. They also came out with the Picard season 3 Picard, which I, of course, ordered. And a lot of people are receiving their Quarks. Quarks was just delivered. That's one of the best head sculpts I've ever seen of an alien, hands down.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah, so there's a lot of great figures. I'm hoping that we get, I know you got the Martian, I'm hoping we get the Project Hail Mary character. I know it's a long shot, but they're going to make a film out of it. And I'm so fond of that book that I'm hoping we get that.
What does it look like? How are they going to realize that and until we have the movie to show us what it looks like? I mean, I love that book.
Yes, and I can't wait for the alien. There's an alien, of course, in the story, and I want to get a 1/6 scale figure of that alien in the book. So I'm so excited about what they're making.
Not since E.T. I mean, that alien. Yeah, there's Grogu, but that alien scientist is going to go down in history if they pull it off. You know what though? I really hope it's not CG. I don't know how they can do it without CG, but it would look so much better if it was a practical. And it's not. I mean, it's essentially a rock creature, sort of.
He's like a spider or some spidery shape.
Yeah,
kind of
yeah. If you guys haven't read Andy Weir's Project Hail Mary, he's the guy who wrote the book The Martian. It is one of the most, and that book is wildly entertaining.
Oh, it's so good.
I read it in one sitting, or one afternoon.
Well, I listened to the audiobook, Robert, and it was remarkable. I mean, that was a great audiobook. I think it's a great book for anybody who loves science fiction, loves space exploration, loves problem solving, loves engineering, loves science. Yeah. This is a book for you, and I think it's just such a lovely and fun foray into the possibilities of exploration. It's like, it reminds me of the series that you were so fond of, the one where it's the space program. I can't remember is it on Apple?
For All Mankind.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of that because it's kind of this hypothetical notion, like, what if we could do this?
It could have been. I mean, if you took one character for All Mankind, and because the scenario is very, it's a very interesting scenario. What's actually happening, and it's such a great. The thing about that book was when I opened it up. So for all of you, again, the book's Project Hail Mary. It was one of those books where I'd heard it was good. I didn't know anything about it. I didn't even read. I don't like reading what books are about anymore. If I hear that they're good, like when I heard that Gone Girl was a really great bestseller. And so I just ordered it. It sounded like some kind of a thriller. I didn't know what Gone Girl was about. Again, I read that book in one sitting. I sat down. I started like, oh my God. It was one of those books where the way it was written, it's easy to digest. I barely blinked. I wasn't even aware, and I was 50 pages into the book. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, I'm locked in. Like this book is not. I'm not going to. The day is gone. I'm going to finish this book, and it was so good. It was so good on every level, and I'm like, I can't wait. I wish Ridley Scott directed the movie, because if he could, bookend The Martian and this would be two of the great modern science fiction films.
Yeah, and it's so like a journal. It's like an individual's journal and experience. And what I was saying about if they do make the film, of course, films, they can't always give you the same timeline or exact course of events that you see in a book. But I certainly don't want it to start anywhere other than where it starts, where you're kind of like, you wake up and you're like, what's going on?
Right.
And that's so exciting, isn't it, Robert? Where you have
Yeah.
to figure this out from a
Well,
scientific review.
the
It's
book
just,
was the whole thing was structured like a movie. I mean, it was
yeah.
so the book screamed to be made into a movie, and it was like a movie. And the way it jumped back and forth between in time when you're in space and then you're on Earth, even that worked perfectly. I mean, it was
Yeah.
just
I also wanted to tell you, and I'm sorry for cutting you off,
no,
about
no.
a movie that I watched. I think it's an Amazon original called A Million Miles Away. I think that's what it's called.
Yeah,
And you've probably heard of it. And it's about an astronaut who was a migrant worker, a migrant farm worker. You know, he starts off as a migrant farm worker. His whole
it's by the
family.
way, it's a true story
It is based on a true story of a real astronaut,
with
American.
Michael Pena.
That's right. And it's done so incredibly well. I don't know if you've seen it, Robert, but it's a feel-good film. And I was crying through many parts of this film just from the determination and the lovely depiction of the character in this. I think it showed a lot of integrity and certainly a lot of determination and the potential for what anyone can become. You know, by the time he was an astronaut, he wasn't 20 years old. You know, I think it was very interesting that the approach and the dignity that they did this film with. And Amazon made a good film. It's probably not Amazon, but some other, whatever company behind this did a fantastic job. Robert, this was a movie that I think is going to inspire kids to want to go into whatever space program we have now, because I don't even know what it is anymore. But I think that a lot of kids are going to see this and aspire to want to be astronauts again, to want to do things like this. I think it's important to have films like this that inspire people to be the best version of themselves and even to strive for things that may seem impossible or highly unlikely for them. This really was such a wonderful success story. So I highly recommend it.
Oh,
Since we're talking about space.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And you know, the second season of Foundation ended this week. I don't know if you're watching it, but it's incredible.
Oh, was it good?
It's incredible. Yeah, the second season, and then we've got For All Mankind. They dropped the trailer on the 13th, which is the day the moon left Earth's orbit. It's breakaway day for Space 1999. So they dropped the trailer, and it's like a come work for UPS, you know, but it's the Helios company that was introduced in season 3. I mean, I can't wait. That starts November 10th.
Wow.
It's there's so much great stuff entertainment wise coming down the pike. You know, I watched a 7-episode Netflix series that I actually thought it started a little slow. The first episode, I'm like, but I stuck with it. It was really great. Called Who is Aaron Carter? And it's like a spy thriller, kind of what's going on, kind of a storyline. But once it got cranked up, it really worked well. And a lot of people are going to see the twists coming, but it was really well done. And it's all set in Barcelona and shot in Spain. And I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really good. I didn't expect to start watching it. It's one of those things. It's really interesting when you start a bingeable show that's like only 7 episodes. It's possible to like start it at 8 or 9 at night and then bang out 4 episodes. So I was already halfway through the show and I'm like, okay, it's 1 a.m. because I usually don't go to bed before 2 or 3 anyway. So, you know, like it was great. So that was I really like that. That was good.
I've got to check that out. And Robert, of course, I can't go any further without mentioning the fantastic stream you had with your friend who is going to be featuring Space 1999, essentially. What an incredible Kickstarter. What an incredible journey reading what he's going to do. And
his Kickstarter page is amazing. If you read the whole, it's the greatest Kickstarter page I've ever seen.
It's going to be the best journey for anybody who's interested in this. And I always used to make a joke about, well, this looks like Space 1999. But to be honest with you, ever since I was a child and my brother had the toy, he had it. And, you know, I just always think about space. I'm like, it's got to look like that. That's how it will look. You know, when we go out there, in mass, Robert, in mass, when we can just go, it's going to look like space. I have a feeling that it will.
Well, it's funny. So my friend Jeffrey Morris, he's already started filming this. He's already started shooting it. It's about the Eagle Transporter, the spaceship, the third greatest fictional spaceship of all time behind the Starship Enterprise and the Millennium Falcon. You know, it's number 3, the workhorse, especially if you grew up with it. Everybody who did grow up with it seems to be obsessed, and now I've got so many different versions of it. Now I've got I've got two 23-inch eagles right there. I have like 10 smaller eagles. I love the Eagle Transporter, and so my friend is doing a documentary on the Eagle Transporter and Space 1999 only ran 2 years. And Jeffrey Morris, he's already created some really impressive stuff. He did a 30-minute, I guess it was like the first act of a science fiction film called Oceanus. That was fantastic. It was really beautifully made. And you know what? It's funny that you bring that up because I can show the trailer.
Oh.
I can show the trailer right now, and I think I'm going to.
Let's
so you
do
can
it.
all see what we're talking about. If I do this, because it is also, you can see, because he even had, using the volume stage, he created the interior of the eagles. So he can walk through a virtual eagle and you'll see it. So people are probably going, what are you talking about? So here is what we're talking about. And this was launched on September 13th because that was the day the moon was blown out of Earth's orbit. So here is the video.
Hi there, this is Nick Tate. I'm super excited to be part of the new documentary, The Eagle Has Landed. An exclusive look starts now.
50 years ago, an icon was born. The Eagle Transporter is one of the greatest sci-fi spacecraft ever conceived. To this day, the design provokes an intense devotion among countless fans around the world. The question is, why? I'm writer-director Jeffrey Morris. I've been enamored with the Eagle since I first saw it in the TV series Space 1999 back in 1975. As a child who followed the Apollo program, the Eagle felt like a direct descendant of NASA's lunar module. Those transformative moon missions left an indelible impact on a generation, as did the Eagle in Space 1999. Over the years, I've discovered that I'm just one of millions of fans who has an affection for the Eagle and a nostalgia for a future we never achieved. So I'm shooting a feature documentary about the origins of this beloved ship, while also exploring its ongoing cultural impact. And I'm inviting you to join me. I'll be speaking with the Eagle's designer, visual effects wizard Brian Johnson. I'll also chat with Nick Tate, the actor who played legendary pilot Captain Alan Carter. It's going to be an epic journey as I travel around the globe to speak with Eagle aficionados and luminaries from the worlds of science and science fiction. As for myself, the visionary world building in Space 1999 blew my mind. It ultimately inspired me to become a filmmaker and production designer. I'm the creator of hard sci-fi projects such as the forthcoming deep space adventure Persephone, the apocalyptic underwater thriller Oceanus, and the universe-hopping techno-fantasy Parallel Man. Now I'm bringing all of my experience and passion to the creation of this documentary. The good news is we've already begun production. We self-financed a shoot in Louisville, Kentucky at Wonderfest, where I spoke with lifelong Eagle fans from around the country. They shared passionate stories about the iconic vessel and the aspects that make it so memorable. Then I traveled to Colorado, where I interviewed Kevin J. Anderson, the best-selling author of books set in the Dune, Star Wars, and X-Files universes. He also happens to be a huge fan of Space 1999. Recently, Kevin and I co-authored the novelization of my film Persephone. We had a blast discussing our mutual love of the Eagle and what it represents. Yet, there's still plenty left to do. I have to hire production crews at locations around the world. I also need to create visual effects and music. And of course, it all has to be edited together at a level that will rival any award-winning documentary. Now I'm asking for your assistance in completing the voyage. Check out our Kickstarter. There are tons of great rewards and even a couple of awesome stretch goals. A future began 50 years ago, and its time is now. Become a supporter of The Eagle Has Landed.
You know, I that is one of the best Kickstarter videos I've ever seen. And the thing is, Jeffrey, all the stuff that he's done, it's always A-list. Like, and it's frustrating to see. Like, I thought for sure somebody would see the first 30 minutes of Oceanus and be like, oh, here's the rest of the money, go make the 90 minutes, because he's always shooting for, like, he and I are basically the same age and we love the same stuff, but he's always trying to elevate whatever it is that he's doing. And Persephone is this big project that he's making over in England. And he's got some of the model department, some of the old guys that actually worked on Space 1999 working on Persephone. And you saw some clips from it in there, but he hasn't been able, he goes to like 100 meetings and people, they're like, so it's like this typical Hollywood story. So what is this? It's all original IP that he's created. And he told us a little bit about that on the show. I just don't understand why people don't look at what he's already done. I mean, he shot the first half an hour of Oceanus. It looks incredible. He spent like $500,000 on it. It looks amazing. Just give him another $3 million and you'll have a $4 million movie that you can run as an original on any other streaming service and people will watch it. You know, it's frustrating. And like this documentary, he's already started shooting it. You know, he's already got assets. He's going to go interview Barbara Bain, who played Helena Russell, who's one of the, and then Nick Tate, of course. Nick Tate's also, who played Alan Carter, one of the great voiceover artists in Hollywood too. So he's done so many trailer things. So if you like what you saw of that trailer, go support Jeffrey. I guarantee you he will give you something. I just hope it's an ambitious goal. It's a hard goal. He wants to get $500,000 to do this. But it's because he's going to go shoot new effect sequences like with models and have the people that did it 50 years ago do it. So
this truly is a journey, Robert. It's a journey, and it's a science fiction journey that really kind of looks at the foundation of why we love stuff like this so much. And it's wonderful what he's doing. I think it's so important to preserve history like this and to also see the effect that it has on future generations. I mean, as I told you, my brother had the Eagle, and I wasn't supposed to play with it, but you know how that goes. Like at some point I had that toy, but I think it is really interesting that I still go back to that as sort of my basis as to what it really will look like, Robert.
That was the whole thing. I mean, Elizabeth calls it the bug ship. She thinks it looks like a grasshopper or something. She goes, why do you have so many of these? And I go, look, they're all different. The one with the orange thing, that's the VIP Eagle. Then there's the one, there's the Lab Eagle that has the boosters.
Yes.
And then she goes, I have the 23-inch ones that are on the shelf here. And she goes, you have more of those. You keep getting them in the mail. And I'm like, well, they're model kits of different kinds of eagles. She's like, well, how many do you need? And I go, well, there's even smaller ones. I need to get the landing pad. And she's like, what? And it's if you were a kid in the 70s, because it was Star Trek. And look, to be fair, Space 1999 is not a great show. Some of it's really, the first season I really love. The second season's not so great. But the what they were aspiring to was great. And as a kid, I like Space 1999 because frankly it was science fiction, but it was weird and creepy. It was like a horror movie every week. And indeed, one of the scariest things ever on television was an episode, when you're 8 years old, there was an episode called Dragon's Domain, which is one of the scariest things on TV. Now it's a little, people would look at it and go, what is this? But
between that toy and the $6 Million Man rocket,
oh yeah,
to sit in, those were like the two that, as far as I'm concerned, I'm still looking for someone's going to create those and make a replica and send it out to space one of these days. But until then,
oh yeah, totally.
It really was so much fun and wonder and desire to find out more about space and science. And I think it did so much for so many people and still is doing that. Seeing the enthusiasm, seeing his journey. Oh my goodness. It's like such an incredible endeavor that he's doing. So glad he's doing it. So glad you featured him, Robert, on the channel. That was just so amazing to meet him and to see him.
Yeah, I mean, I really respect his work. He's been working on getting his movie Persephone made, so he wrote a novel of it with Kevin J. Anderson. They novelized the screenplay, which I thought was like genius. So by the way, a J channel sends in a tip and says, is this book for newcomers to this kind of stuff? I would say, meaning Project Hail Mary, I don't think so. I think anybody that likes a good story, what's really interesting is Andy Weir, like he did with The Martian, makes everything very accessible to the general audience. and the main character is hilarious. You know, because like you said, he's an immediately likable guy. You know, he's a school teacher that used to be a biologist, a biological, he specialized in molecular biology or something, and he's a kind of a disaffected. He's a great character, and he, you know, like you said, it's his story. He kind of narrates it. It's wildly entertaining. So even if you're not into hard sci-fi, you'll love this book. You'll love this book.
You will. The characters are amazing, and of course, the situation is fantastic. And I'd say you don't have to necessarily know a lot about science to enjoy this either, because they explain everything to a point where it does make sense and you can understand it. It gradually builds up so that you yourself are on that mission, Robert. You are also on that mission, trying to figure out what the next thing to tackle will be and how to have a successful mission. And I think that's so important. I think it's certainly encouraging other people too. I'm encouraged to even think about writing something like that. And not every science fiction book that I read inspires me to want to write. So that I can honestly say that about his work, that it certainly does make you want to create. And that's so important.
Oh yeah, I mean and the funny thing is, Project Hail Mary is so Star Trekian in its ethos. Like, it could have been a great Star Trek movie. Mm-hmm. Like, you could have told the exact same story as a Star Trek and have one of the main characters have him experience that and go through that thing, and it could have been set in the 23rd, 24th, or 25th century, and it would have been a great Star Trek movie if they wanted to do that. And so to me, that's it. Like, people would ask me, well, what do you think would be a great Star Trek story? Well, Project Hail Mary, even though it's not a great Star Trek story, it's not a Star Trek story. It could have been a great Star Trek story. Those are the kinds of stories they should be telling on Star Trek.
Yeah, I also think and you're right. I agree. A great Star Trek story, the beginning of a new Star Trek series, even, and it really is something that I think makes the individual strive for excellence, strive for greatness. And there are a lot of challenges in it. It's not a walk in the park. And I think that looking at the character's professional experience and what he had to go through, having to kind of deal with that continually, because it's forcing him to go back to his roots of research, which he kind of stepped away from. And a lot of people do this. They have a great research idea and it doesn't turn out the way they think, or it's very controversial and everybody says that they're crazy. And then guess what? Someone knocks on your door and says, hey, that idea you had, we kind of need you because that might save the world. And that's the hook. That's the hook. That's the fun part of the book. And, certainly I think it's just so enjoyable and an incredible read. So,
well, there's a lot of people that are wanting to talk about a certain TV show in the chat, and we haven't touched on that yet. And, we can't really touch on it until we have the man, the myth, the legend, Lael Rockwell, Mr. 1/6 scale man himself. I know where he comes down on this, so it's going to be interesting. This conversation's going to be an interesting one, and I look forward to it. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, kind souls, gentle beings, however you identify across the 28 known galaxies, welcome, Mr. Lael Rockwell, to Midnight Musings. Lael, how are you, sir?
I'm good, man. I'm pretty good. I'm good, man. I just got back in. We got tickets to a Harlem Renaissance orchestra.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
you're spending a lot of time in New York, Lael.
Yeah. Well, this wasn't even in New York. They actually came here to Hershey.
Okay.
So they were at the Hershey Theater, and they basically put on, just a show. And when I say they put on a show, it was really, really good. But it was like the Renaissance displayed like a lot of historical like soundtracks and a lot of contributions from like the 1950s on the way up.
Oh wow, okay.
So yeah, like it was definitely an experience. We had a good time. Like I know like one of the guys, his name is Charles Henderson. So he's been part of this organization for like so many years as far as them traveling, going to different locations. They've been over to Europe. They've been all over Japan. They've been in so many different locations. And like I said, this is like the last leg of their tour. So they've, stopped over in certain, spots in like Pennsylvania. They've been in Chicago. I think their next stop is in LA. And then they end the tour, I think, in New York. So yeah, it was definitely an experience, and we got tickets to go, so I was excited about it.
Well, this week, did you go to a movie theater to watch a TV show? Okay.
So definitely
Show,
did.
but speaking of show enough, the Shogun 4K Last Dragon coming out next week.
I already know.
I cannot wait. And you know what else? You know what else? For those of you who don't know, Lael Rockwell firmly believes that you should buy Vanilla Ice, Cool as Ice, the German 4K. There's only 1,500 each of all four versions. You know you want it. I think that joke's played out. I won't do it again. But so before we get into this, there's some people that have comments. I'm going to read some comments.
Yeah.
Al Renshaw sends in a super chat and says, I want Thrawn to come back and annihilate and destroy the entire fleet, just so Hera can say to the Senate, I told you so. You didn't believe me, but now we have a war on our hands. Get ready. Laugh out loud.
Yeah.
RRTNZ says, Hail Bob, Ahsoka. Physically painful watching Rosario Dawson be an emotionless plank. Episode 5 was the worst yet. Sees her dead fallen mentor and barely blinks. Thomas Logan says, Star Wars has never been sci-fi. Star Wars is fantasy. George Lucas is a Methodist. Anakin is Jesus. Immaculate Conception. Messiah tempted by Satan and Palpatine dies to free everyone. That's interesting. So those we're caught up with the super chats, and the tip link is down in the description. But now I know that I can't wait to hear what the two of you have to say. We're past the halfway point. It's 8 episodes. Ahsoka's 8 episodes, right?
Yeah.
So episode 5, they put it in theaters. Now, I'll give you just off the top of my head, I thought the episode was very ambitious and impressive from that standpoint. I mean, seeing Hayden Christensen come back in various iterations and various times, I thought was really great. Seeing different versions of Ahsoka, I thought was really great, and I really enjoyed a lot of what was going on. I'm going to say that to start with. I won't even say my big butts, but I have them. But, it was impressive. It was an impressive almost hour of, 45 minutes of Star Wars television from a certain point of view. That's what I'm going to say. I'm going to give the floor. Let's start with I want to ask you, because we're going to end with Lael, who's going to set us all straight.
I think what's interesting is we didn't meet last week, so we couldn't discuss episode 4, which I enjoyed very much. And there were very interesting things that happened in episode 4. And I had kind of made a comment about how I felt that Elspeth was smiling like Ursula from The Little Mermaid, like talking to Sabine like she's the poor, unfortunate soul. Go ahead, take a chance, give us that Wayfinder. And Balin kind of standing out, being such a strong and badass. I know he's not a Sith, but I called him the Sith daddy because he was so powerful in this. Felt like he was almost running the show. I mean, I guess Elspeth is in charge, but it doesn't quite feel like in the end she's going to be the one besting Balin. But I think it was a very interesting dynamic. And of course, we get that surprise at the end of episode 4, where we do see Ahsoka and of course Anakin Skywalker, and it's like, oh my gosh, and so I kind of wondered where I had no idea where they were, and I'm like, this must be the World Between Worlds, because it looks like what we'd seen before. Prior, I had said that I didn't want the episode to go to the World Between Worlds, but they seemed to indicate they were going to go there. But, I wasn't even quite sure if that's where this character was. But I have to say that, just like you, Robert, I think that this was an incredible amount of effort that went into making this episode. And also, I could not have anticipated what Filoni was going to do with this episode. Like, if someone had, said, I'll bet you, what do you think is going to occur? I thought what might have happened in the World Between Worlds, if someone were to ask me, let's say hypothetically, I would have said, well, maybe she has to ask Anakin, how can I stop Thrawn? How are we going to stop all this? What's going to happen? I really had no idea where it was going to go, but I have to say that it must have been an incredible amount of work for him to do this. And it was almost like it was a showcase of Filoni featuring Ahsoka, let's say, through the years in live action in a way we've seen her in the Clone Wars and in ways that we possibly have seen her in Rebels. So now we get to see her in live action. And it was remarkable. We were kind of like behind the scenes. We were, at the Siege of Mandalore, and there was, we got to see Death Watch Mandalorians. There was a lot in this episode. And I thought it was very interesting because it did have a lot of action. It had a lot of scenes that we were very familiar with, a lot of events we were very familiar with. And I would have never guessed in a million years we would have seen that. I wouldn't, if someone had said, you're going to see clips of this, I said, no. We're going to see Thrawn. Thrawn's going to pop up. Ezra's going to be some, twisted person. He's not going to be that lovable, nice guy that Sabine has risked it all for. He's going to come back and be very badass and standoffish towards her. But we did get something that was very different. And I think that the notion, at least from what I could gather from what they were trying to show, was this version of Ahsoka where I guess she was felt like she was going to give up, or there was some issue as to whether or not she could go on, or trying to figure out some kind of inner conflict of this character. But I haven't really seen anything that would indicate she had that, because through the years, Ahsoka, she kind of left the Jedi Order, and then she was in Rebels, and she's fighting for freedom for everybody. And then, she goes on in her book, she fights, she's very clearly on a certain side. So I didn't really understand where this inner conflict was there, where she had to kind of figure out what to do, I guess. But, maybe that's what it was, but I wasn't quite sure where that was going, at least for Ahsoka and what was trying to be said. However, I did want to say that by the time we realized that she has this revelation, I guess, and ironically, Balin, who seemed to kind of read everybody, couldn't really read her. So even in an indication where, let's say if he has the tea and says, hey, I know you're all messed up inside, you're not going to win this, then I would be ready for the setup of, well, she's got this inner conflict and maybe she has to go ahead and speak to somebody to figure out what she was doing. But apparently, I guess she needed to finish her training, or she felt that something was missing. There was something missing. And Anakin is the answer. Who knew? I have no problem seeing Anakin Skywalker a million times. And I think that they did a nice job, and we got to see them fight. And it was certainly something that was on her mind. She was thinking or reminiscing about, I would say maybe the good old days, right? I mean, this is what this character has gone through, and there are victories and things, and maybe she wants that feeling back. So maybe that's what the episode was trying to focus on. But I'm not even sure if that's true or not. So, and then by the time we get to where she comes out of, wherever she is, I guess the World Between Worlds, the Purgles are there. And it's very anticlimactic because we knew the Purgles were there, but we know that they can travel, do this interstellar travel. And she's like, okay, we're going to hop a ride on the Purgles. And I guess most people were like, well, how come this was not sort of like the plan? As soon as they took off, go for the Purgles, let's get this show on the road. But that's not what happened necessarily, and that's okay. But what was weird was that when the Purgle journey was going to be starting, Ahsoka had said, I guess Hu Yang was like, well, where are we going? What's going on? And she's like, well, I don't know. And I thought to myself, I said, this is the moment where something profound could have been said, like, we're going with the will of the Force. The Force will take us there, or something like that. Because when characters say they don't know stuff, it reminded me of Rey when people were asking, well, how did you know how to do that stuff? And she goes, I don't know. And you're like, you don't know? It's like, say something like, it must be the prophecy. It must be something in my blood. Something that shows that the writer kind of believes in the mythos of what this entire thing is about. So it became somewhat questionable, because I don't know whether I would even be confident if I didn't know where I was going. And Balin was so careful to tell Elspeth, we absolutely have to make sure we get this right. Because if we don't get this right, we could end up in the void somewhere. So it felt like it was a very odd comment for her to make. I don't know. So, they go off on their journey and then they leave Hera and her son behind. And I thought maybe they were coming with them. So it was a little funny in that regard. But overall, I thought that this episode must have taken so much time and effort to make. Like, this was one of the hardest episodes I think that they had to do, because they had to recreate some of the most, unbelievable moments in Ahsoka's journey. And we've seen, actually, Filoni was doing this. He did it in Tales of the Jedi, where he was looking at Ahsoka's life early on. And now he kind of continued that. And you saw a little bit more where she's now a little bit older. And then, of course, this final part of her journey, I don't know, my camera keeps freezing, where she's now has to continue on. But I didn't really believe that Ahsoka would be confused or had to figure out, what to do. Like, I thought she was, on target. She didn't seem like she gave up to me. I mean, she even put her hand on that thing and hurt herself, and she was still fighting back. So, I wasn't quite sure, but it was interesting to see it. This was something that Filoni wanted to show us for a particular reason. Maybe it'll even have even greater importance later on. But yeah, I thought we were going to see Thrawn, but maybe we'll see. Maybe we'll see him in the next episode. Who knows? So that was my thoughts on that episode. I liked 4 better than 5, but it certainly was very ambitious. If I were him, I don't think I could have pulled this off the way he did. It was so perfectly executed, and the production team also needs to be complimented for episodes 4 and 5 for what they've done. This is maybe one of the best displays of live action Star Wars after the fact, like from a book or from an animated series that I've ever seen. So that's my thoughts on Ahsoka.
Well, I mean, I've been dying to hear. I mean, I know that you are a lover of all things Star Wars, and I know you've talked about, I've seen on your posts on your page talking about loving everything. I thought what was really interesting was my favorite moment in this episode when Ahsoka says, I will not fight you, and Anakin says, oh, I've heard that before. And I'm like, so he remembers being Vader, because he remembers when Luke said, I will not fight you, Father, from Jedi. I was like, oh, that's interesting. But anyway, I give you the floor, sir. I'm dying to hear what your analysis of this episode was.
And you got to see it in the theater, right, Lael?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It must have looked great. You saw it in IMAX theater, right?
Yeah. We actually traveled to Bensalem, Pennsylvania, and got a chance to see it. It's like right outside of Philadelphia. It was one of the only. I think it was one of the only theaters, pretty much within the area that was actually showing it. So they had the benefit of actually, courting a lot of us that, pretty much, were diehard fans and wanted to actually watch it. So, we, got there early enough. You had to get there like 2 hours before the showing. There was a lot of people that were there, but I think the beauty of it was just the camaraderie, we were networking with so many individuals that were there, people that felt the same way, that, the communication was, really positive. People were there, whether they had hangups or not, they were just mainly there to celebrate Star Wars and the magic of it being in theaters again. And I think that it was definitely, especially when it's for free. It's crazy. It's insane. But we showed up, we got there, they got a chance, they gave us posters, of course, they fed us, we got good seats in an IMAX theater, so, it was definitely, an incredible experience, nonetheless, just, from that aspect of it, like just seeing so many people who actually enjoy Star Wars back in the theater, it is a testament that, Star Wars needs to be on the big screen again. And, pretty much this would be the direction to take. And hopefully going forward, like they, that's something that they'll look at and push for. And like once these films release again back in the theater, they'll get the audience. Like, and I think it's, and I think they were smart by doing it this way, because like I said, they had a fan event, the halfway mark, pretty much all over the country. There were so many different theaters that were actually showing it. And the turnout was good, and the response was definitely good. So, Definitely loved it. All in all, like I said, for me, again, bro, like Star Wars, of course, we know that it wouldn't be Star Wars in this day and age unless it was subjective. You know what I mean? And that's just basically how I look at it. So you'll take from it what you will, and it's not to basically, dispel anybody else's opinion of it. It's just that you take from it what you will, and what works for you. This episode definitely worked for me. It was one of the best of all fives. To be quite honest, I thought episode 5, and even though I enjoyed all 5 episodes, I've said this and I live and die on that hill. I enjoyed it because I understood. I definitely understood where they were going. I understood the pacing and what it took to get to this point. And everything that we actually saw thus far up until this point was, pretty much what we've seen through trailers. Except for episode 5, of course, which, gave us something that was the unexpected. But for me, man, like, look, Ahsoka's been on this journey. And I think that, like, just as far as her mannerisms, as far as the mood, like, the characteristics, everything that we actually see and how she's portrayed, it's all things intentional, in my opinion. I think it was intentional for them to have her this way because she was on a journey, and this episode 5 was a display of that particular journey. Part of what she's been dealing with for so long is regret, not just regret. Also, she's been blaming herself for things that were completely out of her control. The most beautiful thing about this episode, but also the most frightening thing about this episode, is that us basically viewing the Clone Wars and viewing Rebels, especially the Clone Wars, we're viewing it through the eyes of an animator. It was animation. She was 14 years old. 14 years old, during that era, during the Clone Wars. But of course, because you're seeing it in animation, you're more forgiving. When you see this in live action and realize that a child at the age of 14 was thrusted into war as a Jedi, definitely was thrusted into war, was given the rank of a general or commander of a battalion, that was fully her responsibility and decisions that had to be made. Of course, she's going to make mistakes. Of course, lives are going to be lost. Of course, she's going to be a bit ambitious and overzealous because, again, the teachings of her master. When, when Anakin says that you're carrying your legacy, from me, my master before me and his master before him. So basically, again, what she learned from the Jedi was, from teachings, was being a keeper of the peace. But through Anakin, she, learned the L's of war because he basically trained her to be, a warrior. That's basically what it was, to fight this war. So it's from different aspects through her life that she's had to deal with this. She's dealing with the loss of, certain clones that she, grew an attachment to as far as friendship. She's dealing with the simple fact that Anakin being, her master at one point, knowing what his outcome is, thinking that, if I had actually only been there to help him, if I was there, during this transition, maybe things wouldn't have actually happened. And his point was, you can't stop destiny. This is your destiny. Being Vader and becoming Vader was mine. There are casualties of war, but that's just basically the way things are. You adapt to it. You adapt to the times. And that even basically is thought, subconsciously, subliminally. He was speaking even towards us as fans. Like we're so stuck in, things that we're used to. We're so stuck at, the Star Wars of old, the stories that were told previously, but not understanding that things do evolve. There is an evolution. We have to basically move with the times. We're not going to always get the old time feeling that we basically had, back in the day. Like we have to evolve with it. And I think, that, it spoke well to a lot of people, but for Ahsoka, it was mainly a journey that she needed to take to transition because she hadn't finished her journey. She hadn't she hadn't gone through the trials. Luke's trial was facing Vader. And he faced Vader and came out on top because he didn't submit to the dark side, which allowed Vader to make a choice, which allowed Vader to be the chosen one that we knew. And that's how Vader faced his destiny, faced his trial, and again, ascended to the light. That was basically, now Ahsoka right now, her trial was getting through her regret, surviving that regret, surviving the guilt, that she's dealt with for so many years, letting it go and understanding where she needs to be right now, not only as a person, but also just understanding, that, let me see here. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me now? Hopefully they can hear me now. I don't know. They said that the
No,
microphone was low.
You're loud. Now you're really loud.
Okay. But anyway, hoping, for her now, she's a better, not only just basically a better Jedi or a better, understands the Force a bit more, but then she can also be a better leader. She can also be a better master because, again, she was dealing with Sabine from a space of hesitation, not really wanting to grow or gain that attachment, because of what came before. And I think that was beautifully displayed. Again, it was intentional the way she was before. But even at the end, when basically, Hu Yang was like, okay, are they going to take us where Sabine is? And she was like, I have no idea. And he was like, what? She said, no idea. You're seeing the Ahsoka of old, in a sense, whether you know it or not. Like, she's more like, and even the way these things were shot, her coming back, becoming Ahsoka the White, how bright everything was. Basically, when you're looking at the sky, everything is white. Everything that was basically, there was no shrouds of gray, no, intentional, dark, moody, brooding, atmosphere. Everything is a bit more lighty. So now what we're actually seeing is hope. She's moving from a place of hope and optimism now. She's more open to the Force. She's welcoming the Force. And on top of that, where she was, the world between worlds was a vessel. Now, there were no references, and they did not say that's where they were. It was a visual. It was from a point of view, but it was from an aspect of what is from memory. And I think Anakin is the Anakin that we basically know. And I think he was that Force Ghost. He is the Anakin. He is basically Force Ghost. But the only reason why he couldn't appear to her earlier is because, again, conflict. She wasn't one with the Force. She hadn't, because of everything she had gone through, she slightly turned away from it, from the teachings. She hadn't embraced the Force fully as she should have. So the only way that Anakin could actually reach out to her and reach her in general was this particular aspect of it, her near-death experiences in between. That's why he asked her. He was like, you lost the fight. And she was like, what happened? He said, you lost. Then she remembered. She said, Balin's skull. He's like, oh, so you do remember. And she was like, what do you mean? He said, well, you have a chance to live. Meaning that she's still in between both worlds, the living and death. So basically now accepting that, understanding where she came from, now it's time to finish your training. Once we get through this training, once you basically understand your place, understand that you are not supposed to carry this guilt. This is the way of the Force. This is the lessons that you needed to learn. You need to move forward and let go of the things of the past, things that you could not control, so there's a better future. I think that's what they were trying to actually convey. And Dave Filoni, to me, did a beautiful job in displaying that. And I loved this episode. I even loved the young actress who portrayed young Ahsoka. She showed us the emotions that we were missing throughout the entire show. And she gave us that even through the eyes of Ahsoka. Now, mind you, we weren't seeing the young Ahsoka. We were seeing the older Ahsoka portrayed through, time. But the emotions were there, and I definitely loved that. I mean, I loved, basically us, from Clone Wars to Rebels, back to Clone Wars, everything that we actually got a chance to see in this particular aspect of episode 5. I loved. I mean, honestly, bro, like I said, all things subjective. This is, look, for people who didn't like it, that's completely understandable. It didn't work for you, that's completely fine. For those who did understand it, those who did like the journey and have seen it thus far and have been able to follow it and connect to it, that's good as well. All things subjective, that's just the way film is in general. That's the way our viewing of the things that we see right now is. Some people are more harsh than others, and that's understandable. But again, if it didn't connect to you, that's fine. It's not, if we lived in this perfect world where everybody loved everything, then there's no progression. So I'm fine with it, and that's where I sit.
Wow, that was a very interesting analysis. I want to thank you for that. That was definitely a lot to chew on. Now, I have a philosophical question about Star Wars in general that I want to throw out to you. And this is something that struck me when I was watching this episode. Which is this seemed so far removed from The Empire Strikes Back. And I'm watching, because Empire Strikes Back is the thing I've seen the most. I've seen it, saw it in the theater 26 times and 43 years ago. And I have watched it so many times since. And when I was watching, like, all of this stuff that was in this episode is it has been created post the Star Wars movies that we know. And even Clone Wars was an extrapolation on, and I know Filoni worked with George Lucas and had many long conversations with him about all this stuff. But do you think that what we witnessed and what we're witnessing with Ahsoka is all in line with what George Lucas envisioned for the universe when he was first writing Star Wars back in the early 70s?
I think Lucas, again, is a visionary, bro. He's a visionary who basically knows the lore because he created it, but he's open to change. That's the thing. He's open to it, and he's open to see the story progress in the right hands. And I will basically go on the lines to say that the reason why we're getting what we're getting right now is because it is in good hands with Filoni. With Dave Filoni, he understands the lore. He understands the vision. I think that what Disney needs to do is give him more time to play and not get in the way. Plain and simple. That's it. Don't get in the way. Give him time to basically do his thing. He understands the lore, and he's trying to show you that he understands the lore. The thing is, it's like, I don't blame, like, I can't, and I've said this before, bro, I can't place the blame on, these writers or directors, because they're only moving the way they're instructed to. And again, we know that the ones who hold the pocketbooks get in the way because they want to see their own translation, their vision, and they're looking at merchandising. They're not looking at entertainment. They're looking at merchandising. How can we market this and make money and residual gain? That's how they see it. Dave Filoni's looking at the art. He's a visionary himself. He wants to see this lore played out the right way. And I think it's definitely in the right hands and given the opportunity to do it. Now, also, because I heard a lot of people that were talking about the way it was shot, the mysticism, how it was basically so foggy, and they wanted to see more of Mandalore. They wanted to see more. Again, she's in a dreamscape. And on top of that, it is war. When you're in war, does everything look like sunshine and roses? Hell no.
Well, it looked a lot like the Jake Gyllenhaal film that Sam Mendes directed when they were in Iraq, during Desert Storm, and it had that very similar look to it. Yeah. And that's what I chalked it up. I mean, when you're in there's burning oil or burning, that's what it was going to look like. And
the focus was definitely on her and Anakin. It was their story that needed to be told. Yeah, Jarhead. It was their story to be told. The focus was on them. Yes, we saw Rex. We didn't see much of Rex, but we saw Rex, and I was happy with that. But I had to remember, and everybody has to remember, is that the focus was supposed to be on Anakin and Ahsoka. It was their story to be told. It was that story that was most important for the narrative because, again, it's moving beyond what you're comfortable or being in a comfort zone that you're not necessarily supposed to be in. And on top of that, carrying guilt that you shouldn't because it wasn't your responsibility. And what he was also trying to tell her was like, it's not your fault that this is basically what you've been taught. Like, on both sides, being the keeper of the peace, but at the same time, advancing into war. I had to look at it as an aspect of just the fact that she was Bro, if my 14-year-old daughter was thrusting, I would, what? Hell no. Like, that to me was the most emotional part of it, is because she's having to deal with so many emotions at the age of 14. And when I saw that, it really confirmed everything that I've been saying for the longest time since we've got the rebirth of Star Wars, even back in the 90s, bro. Even basically with the Timothy Zahn books, even like some of the narrative. The Jedi are fucked up. Like, literally, they are fucked up. Like, I mean, they're what they believe. And then on top of that, forcing a 14-year-old to not have attachments, bro, forcing a child to basically disassociate itself from a family that they get the fuck out of it. That shit was, it was like, yo, I saw this and I was like, damn, it broke my heart because of what she basically had to experience at the age of 14. So, of course, growing up, like, remember, right now, she's in her 40s. She's not, 14 anymore. She's in her 40s. She's older. She's basically a veteran. She's now carrying so much in her. So, of course, she's not going to be that happy-go-lucky individual. And that was intentional. But I think that going forward from episode 5, you're going to see something totally different. You're going to see a different side to Ahsoka, and I welcome it, bro. But definitely, I do believe, long story short, that this is the vision. This is basically something that both Dave Filoni and Lucas, because remind you, he's been on this journey with Dave Filoni for a while. So I think that this is in line to the story. And of course, because they're communing all the time. They're always talking about these things. And again, remember, Ahsoka was, again, Lucas's way. He's the one who told Filoni, nah, she needs to be Anakin's Padawan. There was a vision for it. There was basically a space where this was supposed to happen. So I think it's played out exactly the way they wanted to. Again, it's going to be subjective with the fans because, you know, again, people want what they want, and that's completely fine. Some people embrace it. That's completely fine. So on both sides, I think there's an argument, but I'm just happy that we're getting Star Wars entertainment. That's where I'm at. I'm happy that it's fulfilling something that I've loved all my life, and I'm able to go with it and welcome something new. It's like, yo, I look at it this way. I had a pair of Lee jeans that I used to love basically back in the 80s. Can I fit them some bitches now? Hell no. I wish I could. I had to move on and buy a bigger pair. So that's where I'm at.
Well, you know, Ariana Greenblatt, who played young Ahsoka, I felt really bad for her because, you know, the last time we saw her, she was young Gamora in Infinity War, and look what she had to put up with then. Yeah. So, you know, and she was also in Barbie. But so Al Renshaw says that Ariana Greenblatt is a star, and she was great as Ahsoka. I thought she was too. She's got quite the little career cooking. She was also the girl that was in 65, that Adam Driver movie. So she's already starred with Kylo Ren in a movie. She's in Barbie. She's young Ahsoka, and she's young Gamora. So between that, she's part of the MCU. She's part of Lucasfilm. She's part of the biggest movie of the year. And she was in a movie with Adam Driver and dinosaurs. So she's having a good career. Sonny Dominguez in A Change of Pace says, have you guys seen Platonic on Apple Plus? Rose Byrne is one of the funniest comedic actresses, and Seth Rogen is such a great pea in the pod with her. I love Rose Byrne. I haven't seen it. I've seen the trailer. I'd love to watch it. Looks good to me. Our favorite Irene Jobson says, why is so beautiful?
Oh my goodness!
I don't know, Irene. Are you hitting on her through the chat here? And then she also says, hi, Robin Lael.
Love you.
Well, hello. Okay, now I gotta mention something. Lael, Hot Toys dropped the Sabine. Well, they didn't drop the actual figure, but they dropped the Sabine Wren Hot Toy. How great is that figure?
Looks good, bro. It looks just like her. It definitely looks like her. Man.
I love that figure because I love the color. I mean, I think so far, the most toyetic of all the Mandalorian armors. I mean, it looks so
definitely different.
Good.
Yeah, love it, bro. I thought it looked good. I thought the sculpt itself is right on par with the actress herself. It definitely looks like her. And I think they nailed it, man. I mean, if they stick the landing with the final product, then I think it's going to be incredible, man. But yeah.
Are you going to buy the Attack the Clones 3PO?
No, because I had to choose.
Really?
Yeah, bro. Nah, because again,
that's a great looking figure, though, dude.
It is, but at the same time, bro, like, I mean, I wanted to go 3PO, bro. That's just basically where I'm at. Revenge of the Jedi 3PO coming out. That's the best of, pretty much the entire trilogy. I was like, let me go with that. It is a decent figure, don't get me wrong, but I had to choose which one and which basically worked. And on top of that, when I was trying to get it, or before I could actually get it, it had gone waitlist. I can probably still get it, but right now I'm just still focused on 3PO, and this is so much dropping right now. I just got to wait, bro.
Dude, they dropped Doctor Strange from Multiverse of Madness today.
Yeah, they dropped it early this morning, yeah.
I mean, it's like, what do you do?
I didn't anticipate that, but
I'm giving up.
They did it. I mean, they dropped, I think, a total of, they dropped, it was a total of 4 figures this week. Was it? Yeah, it was 3PO. So we got 3PO, we got Electro, we got Doctor Strange, and we got RoboCop. So they dropped.
And Sabine.
This week.
And Sabine, yeah.
Well, Sabine was a reveal. I'm talking about drop, literally
you mean
just
that you can buy. Yes.
That you can physically buy now. But like they dropped so many, figures I mean, the RoboCop I passed on because I was like, you know what? Nope, RoboCop 3. I hated that film. I definitely did not like RoboCop 3 out of all. But it's a decent looking figure, and I think that they kind of wanted to give you the best of both worlds because if you look at the figure, bro, it looks
Dude,
definitely
it's
more.
Peter Weller.
It's Peter
not
Weller.
Robert Burke.
It looks more like Peter Weller. It looks nothing like, you know what I mean? But I think that they did that intentionally so you can have the best of both. Giving you some of the accessories from from 3, but still giving you the look of the other two.
Yeah,
So,
they give you the die-cast RoboCop so you can have a RoboCop. Because even in the pictures, dude, in the pictures, I did a impromptu action figure stream today with Anthony. Even in the pictures, they had a RoboCop. It would say the logo of RoboCop in the picture with no jetpack and no weapon. And it just looks like Peter Weller. Yeah. And then they would do the RoboCop 3 with him in the jetpack. And I was like, that the die-cast RoboCop figure is amazing. So if you passed up on that and you have had not good luck on the secondary market, now you can.
Yeah.
Now you can.
You can definitely, man. I mean, here's the thing, bro. I'm not gonna lie. That RoboCop, it looks good, but I just can't commit to that because of RoboCop 3, man. That church scene, I was like, I'm checked out. I couldn't deal with it, bro. But now, all in all, bro, like this.
But it was for the kids, man. RoboCop 3 is for the kids.
Yeah, I mean, you should have thought about that earlier on when you decided to go down the road and be as ambitious as you were with the first two. Yeah, I think the kids aspect of it went out the window a long time ago. So, but yeah, it's still it's good, but we're getting a lot. We're getting so much right now. So it's just like, I gotta wait. I gotta definitely wait. I gotta hold off until some of this stuff kind of clears up a bit.
Jermaine King says, I love being able to hear this Ahsoka discussion and be able to discuss this with everyone, even though we have different opinions. Yeah. This is fun. It is fun, Jermaine.
That's the way it's supposed to be, man. Like,
it is the way it's supposed to be.
Listen, bro. I've already me myself, man. I'm like, I'm going to get attacked by so many people, bro. I know. I put my big boy pants on. I don't care about that. It is what it is. If you don't like my take on it, that's completely fine. All things subjective. I'm just going to speak my mind the way I think it basically affected me. But I think it's good to actually have opinions and for people to, pretty much formulate. Now, again, but be constructive about it. If you're just attacking it just to just to be heard, I mean, and that's you. Maybe, I don't know, maybe didn't have any milk or cereal this morning, but you know what I mean? It is what it is, bro. Like I said, I mean, I look, not everything's going to be positive, and that's just the way the world is right now.
I'm with you, man. You don't have to apologize for your opinion on this show. You're a host.
Yeah, you can't have false expectations. So I never go into it thinking that everybody's going to agree, and they shouldn't. That's the way it is.
Irene Jobson says, can I be a stripe so I can be all over?
Irene, yes, you can. And thank you so much. Come on over, Irene.
Can I watch?
Yes. Irene, I love you, lady. I hope the kitties are well, too. Always good to see you, Irene.
200 Watt Studio says the only C-3PO I want is the Red Arms C-3PO.
Yeah, we never got that one.
Yeah, we're never gonna get it.
That one's never gonna drop.
Never gonna drop. Did they even announce that? No, probably not.
No, it was in purgatory. It's one of the ones this Sideshow actually had they had sitting in purgatory with Baze Malbus, and they never dropped it. So
Yeah. Oh well.
You know how that goes.
I do know how that goes, and it's too bad. So anyway, we've got that's a pretty good Ahsoka conversation. I'm pretty excited about that. It's all good, I guess. So, is there anything else you watched, Lael? We talked a little bit before you got here about TV, things that we'd seen, things that we'd liked. Did you catch up with anything else this week?
Oh man, actually, what did I watch? What have I been watching? Because I've been like these last couple of weeks, I've been super duper busy.
Yeah, me too.
I haven't had a chance to really do too much or watch too much. Of course, I make myself available for Ahsoka, but everything else, I mean, I've gone back. I wanted to basically watch. Here's the thing: it's not that I don't want to become a fake fan of something that I have no idea about. I wanted to go back. I wanted to watch that One Piece just because, like I said, the girls, they want me to basically watch it because they love it and they love, pretty much anime and stuff like that, which I do too. But One Piece, I wasn't really up on. So I want to actually sit back. I'm going to probably try my best this weekend to binge some of it and watch it just to see, what it's like, what it's about. But I know they like it. I wanted to see that. Let me see what else.
The Hot Toys dropped. Didn't they drop a second One Piece figure?
Yeah, it was the Zoro.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they basically dropped that.
So
one.
that was another figure. Oh, that's only for pre-order.
Yeah, they were definitely, both of those are for pre-order.
But they're all in on One Piece, which is interesting, and they knew that was a smart move because, it's funny. I see a lot of 6-scale collectors. Like I love Kamen Rider. And 3A is putting out the Kamen Rider toys, and I'm going to get the Kamen Rider, the original Shin, but the original first Kamen Rider and that motorcycle. I'm totally getting that.
Yeah,
and
I've been you know what I've been doing, bro? I haven't really been watching much TV. I just been reading a lot. I've been catching up on a lot of my comics. Definitely been doing that, catching up on everything that's happening over there, and with the Fall of X. I've been catching up
on Hickman, man.
Yeah.
I'm all into the Krakoa era of X-Men.
Yeah, definitely, man. So that's what I've been doing. Like, as far as anything television-wise, film-wise, I think I did see, no, I didn't. I wanted to see it. I didn't get a chance to see it. I'm going to go probably see it this weekend. But I did get a chance to see Oppenheimer finally. So
oh, yeah?
What did you think of it?
I thought it was good. I thought it was tragic as hell. I thought that basically we're looking at, just a story being told in 3 parts. I was like, wow, when you go into it thinking that you're getting one thing and you're getting everything else, it was like, okay, now I really understand. And my heart definitely went out for Florence Pugh's character because, damn, that was kind of fucked up.
It was way fucked up. That really happened too.
Yeah, bro, that was really, really kind of fucked up. But I mean, other than that, yeah, that's pretty much it.
Did you see the Equalizer 3?
Bro, I think I err on the side that both John Wick and Denzel Washington need to do a film together, bro.
Oh, yeah.
And definitely I can see that, pretty much he can exist in that world. I mean, because except for the exception of in the very beginning, I don't want to spoil it for people who haven't seen it, but what happens in the very beginning with him, and I was kind of blindsided because he didn't expect that. But other than that, this man's untouchable, bro. Like, straight up untouchable. And I'm like, yo, the only thing about the Equalizer, bro, like when I watch this film, I'm like, okay, you normally have like 7 or 8 people in a room, all with guns. Some with Desert Eagles, some with you have all these people in one room listening to a guy talk and touch his watch, who's obviously warning you that he's going to fuck you up, but just sitting there watching him talk and you're doing nothing about it. Nobody fired a single shot at him while he's talking at all. He's just giving you an easy out and you choose not to take it. Now, if you basically know his resume, then you have time to get up and say, yeah, I'm out. But nobody did that. They just sat there and watched. And I'm like, okay, yeah, that's the only thing about it that I'm like, yeah, what the fuck? But other than that, it's still enjoyable, bro. I still enjoy it.
Okay, hang on a second, though. When you watch him in that role, when he speaks, he's like E.F. Hutton. Everyone listens.
People listen, bro.
Because he's so compelling in that. I gotta say, I think my only criticism of Equalizer 3 is the fact that he's untouchable.
Yeah,
but I
he is so untouchable, bro.
I just don't care because watching him wreck fools and look at his watch, and now he's in Italy, so it's doubly good. Is monumentally entertaining.
Bro, it is. It's definitely. But
him and Anton Fuqua I would love to visit that set because they must be laughing their asses off making those movies.
Bro, like, they have to, bro. But again, I just like to see him in action, bro, because Denzel does his thing. And I do want to basically see him. I would love to see him and John Wick, in an actual film, bro. I think that would be incredible. If you merge both the worlds together, bro, that would be insane.
Although I have to say, like, I'm a huge Man on Fire fan.
Yeah.
And it's weird. Like, on one hand, I look at Man on Fire and I'm like, oh, I hope you rescued little Dakota Fanning. I hope you do. And I watch this movie and I'm thinking, I wonder if he's going to tap
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
It's terrible when I think this. It's terrible. But you know when you, well, I know but she's almost, she's in her like late 20s. It could happen. But it's just weird.
Is she in her 30s now?
I
Is she in her 30s
don't
now?
think, is she? That's closer to me. Maybe I can justify it. No, I'm
I
just
don't know.
I feel bad. I feel because but I love Dakota. I've always loved Dakota Fanning.
Dakota Fanning, yeah.
But she's growing up to be. I'll just call her a handsome young woman. How about that?
Bro, she like literally like did such a good job, bro. Like,
She was great. She was sassy and gave it right back to him. She's great.
She did such a good job, bro. Definitely.
You know, I was afraid that her younger sister was going to overshadow her, but she hasn't. I love those sisters. Not in that kind of a way. I just appreciate their talent and their acting ability.
Islamic, I was looking at what the Islamic is saying. He said Michael J. White is the Equalizer is much more believable. You know what? I think he would be dope as an Equalizer if he played the role. Was one I think Michael J. White does not get credit for. Bro, he's definitely an entertainer, bro, and a good actor.
And not only that, he's legit a martial artist.
Yeah, he's a legit martial artist, bro. I think that he could definitely pull it off, bro. He'd be crazy as the Equalizer, man. Yeah. I want to see him come back and I want to see him come back.
Don't you dare say it.
Bro, if it's written well, as it's different from I do, bro. I do. I want to see him come back and Spawn, bro. Give him a redemption story, bro. Let somebody else write it a better way, bro. But I think he can pull it off, man. I come on, give him a chance, man.
I can't believe you went there.
Why not? I didn't think he was, bro. It was. Look, when we saw back then, bro. When we saw that, you know what I mean? It was like
I still have flashbacks to seeing that movie.
It was a terrible film, bro. I know that, but seeing the trailer, I was like, come on, man, give it a chance. Like, give him a chance. You know what I mean? I think he was a great selection. It's just that the story was terrible. Like, the way they wrote it was terrible. It's deviated from what we know about Spawn. But, yeah, man, like, give him a chance and do something, bro. He's dope as Black Dynamite, man, and everything else he does, bro. He's incredible, man. Come on, give him.
Not as Bruce Leroy. My man, the Last Dragon is coming back. Show enough in a blue or a 4K steelbook. I can't wait.
Definitely, bro.
I am Jax 12 said I just finished Silo. Silo was pretty good. I really liked the series. I'd read the book Wool. Actually, it's not really. It's a collection of short stories, really. But I really liked Silo. I thought Silo was good. And I don't know if you caught up with Foundation, but the second season I thought was quite good. It's not a great adaptation of Asimov, I don't think, but it's good in its own right.
And Lee Pace is still in it, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's all. That's important.
Yeah, Lee Pace is for you. I know what you're saying. I see you. I know what that's all about. I get it. Maria Espino says, one of two. I gave episode 5 of Ahsoka an 8.5 out of 10, with most of that being Hayden and Ariana. Here's the thing. This is the timeline where Luke, Leia, and Han were very dominant. They did mention Leia finally. So not having any of them around takes me out of it all. Shows like that are in this timeline, all the shows need these 3 characters. Just recast those actors. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, because they haven't done that already. Like, I don't understand why someone just doesn't give Sebastian Stan the job of playing an older Luke Skywalker. Like, yes. I really don't. Everybody would accept it. And it's funny because I guess my big problem with modern Star Wars is really, I wanted to see the Luke that was in the Dark Empire comic. I wanted to see the Luke that was in Heir to the Empire. I wanted to see and then how those characters were brought forward in the expanded universe. Because that's what it was to me. Because there was no other Star Wars, and it was like they're never going to make any more Star Wars. So those characters that became my canon. My Star Wars canon. And to go back and change it all is really weird to me, because the way Luke was portrayed, especially in the comic Dark Empire, he was a badass. And I love that. So it's really difficult when you have, somebody's got to write maybe I'll do a Robservations on this, what it's like to be a fan of something, a franchise, that it starts out as a movie or a TV show, and then it goes away, but it's continued on either in comics or novel form. And comics and novel form, no matter, like, even if it's gone for 10 years, because Star Wars was gone, really, Luke, Leia, Han was gone from 83 to, well, for quite some time, until it was only carried forward through the books. And because that was all that existed for 15 years, to me, it was like, well, that's real. And Lucasfilm basically said these books were canon, and they curated them to make sure that the lore was kept pretty straight. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, that's what it was. And then when Disney bought Star Wars, all of that investment that I'd placed, well, it wasn't that much of an investment, but all of that investment was swept away, and they changed it all. And the thing that I have feelings about is that none of it was as good as what was in those books, in terms of the way they carried the I'm talking about the legacy characters now, not because Ahsoka was a new creation, but the like the legacy characters they had such a cool fate, you know, with the Solo twins and all. I loved all that stuff, and now none of it's real, but yet it's still in my world beyond, or world between worlds. And that's true of Star Trek and all this. It's a weird thing to be a fan of something, and then you follow it in another medium, and you go down a road, and they take that away from you.
I think it's, bro, you know, even stepping outside of Star Wars, bro, I think, you know, adapting a book to live action is hard on every platform, because there are a lot of people who, you know, there are some people who didn't like, or still don't like, the, you know, adaptation of Lord of the Rings in live action. There's a lot of people that don't like the adaptation of, you know, Harry Potter in live action. You know, they don't like those translations because they feel as though that there are things in the book that were left out, whether it be intentional, unintentional. You know, they don't like that. You know what I mean? I think with, you know, Heir to the Empire, Dark Empire, you know, those things, you know, Timothy Zahn, those stories, because of how intricately written they are, you know, from a character perspective. My only thing is, my biggest thing that I don't want to think, and people need to realize about Thrawn, is that he wasn't a villain. He wasn't he basically ensured, again, it's like any occupation. He's a boss doing an occupation who wanted to make sure that his people were comfortable, you know, that they were taken care of. He wanted to basically usher in an era where it wasn't all about dictatorship. It was about basically earning the trust of the people. And that's what he did, basically, with his regime. I don't want them to make him an all-out, you know, mustache trolling villain. I would hope that they would actually err on the side of making him more of a complex anti-hero, that there's a bigger, you know, there's something bigger at play. But again, it's just like trying to adapt those storylines into live action. And on top of that, knowing that right now, you know, you have an older Mark Hamill, you have an older Harrison Ford, you no longer have Carrie Fisher, you know, rest in peace. How you pull that off, you know, de-aging or, you know, using deep fake. We know a lot of people don't like deep fake. You know, people will complain about that. It's like a tough space to be in to tell those stories. Now, again, because his film hasn't been, you know, it's not out there yet. I guess he's still writing it. It's still treatments for it. But still, who knows what we can actually see, what we can still possibly get, what's his name? Sebastian Stan to play Luke, because again, Luke was very important, you know, within Heir of the Empire. Han was important. Leia was important. You know, at that time she was, you know, pretty much training to be a Jedi, but also part of the Senate, you know, and we know that there were things that were going on that did require her, you know, knowing that she was, you know, giving birth to her children at the same time as well. So there's a lot that's going on. There's a lot to be translated from you know, book to live action that I think would be tough, you know. And you're not like, again, bro, you already know the current era of not just Star Wars, but the way we view Star Wars. It's, again, highly subjective. It's tough.
But what's bizarre, like, Thrawn is a really interesting case study. Because so Thrawn was created by Timothy Zahn in his Star Wars. Like, The thing is, people forget this because we're so saturated with Star Wars now. But in the early '90s, Star Wars was essentially a dead brand.
Yeah.
It had run its course.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until there was a conscious effort, a very calculated effort, to reintroduce Star Wars, and they did it brilliantly in the Dark Horse comic and Dark Empire, and then they did it with the Heir to the Empire series. And Thrawn was a big heavy in the Heir to the Empire series. So Thrawn was created by, again, one man, Timothy Zahn, riffing on Lucas's universe. Mm-hmm. And now they're cherry-picking the extended universe. So they're taking the character. So Thrawn is now a live-action character. Yet the books that he came from are not canon. So in my mind, you've got a character that has a backstory that did all of this stuff with our heroes. There was a whole saga that played out that he was a part of. That's how he learned who he was. But because he was a favorite, that saga is no longer canon. And they've brought him over, and what they're doing with him now is canon, but it's not. It's something. I'm like, wait a minute. You have Thrawn, so Thrawn is a character, but you pilfered him from these books. And the books that you pilfered him from aren't real, but he is. Mm-hmm. I think that's so weird. It's so bizarre. Like you took this character that was existing in these, and now Timothy Zahn came back and like wrote more Thrawn to kind of caress. I haven't read the newer Thrawn books, but did he have to rewrite Thrawn to make it work with the new continuity?
No, he's not. I think what he's basically doing right now is it's telling a story from Thrawn's point of view about his life. Just basically, it's not anything to do with what they're doing currently right now. But you might as well say, bro, it's the same treatment that we get with Marvel. You know, if something changes cinematically, then of course they're going to go back and change something in the book. Case in point, look what they're doing with Miss Marvel right now. You know what I mean? When something changes.
Well, now she's a mutant.
Yeah, which we know, though. We do know that the original intentions of that character was to be a mutant. It's just the simple fact that they felt that the rate that they were going with the X-Men at the time, especially cinematically, things had changed. They didn't want to actually put that character in that space because it would have became a forgettable character. So that's why what they did was went the route of making her more so an inhuman. And again, she just took off, and now they're going back to her true origin, and I'm okay with that. I'm fine. But we know that that's what happens, bro. Like there's always a readjustment. What happens in the cinematic universe, they got to go back and change certain things, or what happens in the books causes them to change things.
Right, but I mean, to take that character, it's just weird. It's weird to me that they just lifted this character out of these novels because they didn't take a lot of other things out of those novels. They just took the character.
Well, maybe it's because he was so popular.
Well, yeah, no, it was.
Yeah.
But then, how does Timothy Zahn feel about that? Like
he's okay with it
because they own it. They own it. They don't have to pay him or anything. But they probably do. But still,
well, yeah, because Filoni's been working close knit with Timothy Zahn. He's been working with him and definitely making sure that he gets his blessings on everything that he's doing thus far. And Timothy Zahn was like, yeah, he's from his interpretation of what he's doing right now so far. He loves it. Like he's on board with it.
Well, yeah, because he created this character in a book that he never thought he'd see him in live action, and there he is.
Yeah.
You know, and who would have thought those books were written? Again, those books were written 30 plus years ago.
Yeah. And
suddenly here's that character in Star Wars. I mean, that's wild from a fan perspective. I think it's crazy. Let's see. Maria, we already got to that. Tom Jr. Jackson says, good to see the gang again. Thanks, Tom.
Hey, Tom.
Al Renshaw says, are we ever going to get the Gundam show on Netflix? I mean, I'm waiting. They announced it. Where is it? You know me. I'd love to see my Gundam show. It would be great to see King Tannic. Our man King Tannic, the man of the otaku experience. By the way, I keep sending you stories. I hope they're useful. Been showing my girlfriend Star Wars. We got to episode 7 today, my second least favorite of the saga, but we had a good time. I'm glad she's loving the series. Well, if she didn't, you'd have to kick her to the curb, so I'm glad she's liking the series too. Otherwise, you'd never be let back on this channel, so you're okay. It sounds like she's a keeper. But you're only 21, so what do you know? But anyway, you know a lot about anime, though. No, it's good. Tell her hello for me. Simon Section says Denzel Washington, The Equalizer, and Keanu Reeves' John Wick do appear in a movie together. Well, that's Much Ado About Nothing. Little Shakespeare for you.
Yeah, bro. I love that film, bro.
Yeah, it's really good.
It was dope.
Glenn Mark says, hi, guys. I've been without the internet for 2 freaking weeks. I just thought you didn't like me anymore, Glenn Mark. I'm house sitting for 4 days, and I have the net here. I can get onto those timestamps again, Rob. Please do, because it ups the channel growth. Tom Logan says, but don't enjoy yourself. Thomas Logan says Sebastian Stan as Luke in Filoni's Star Wars film would equal $1 billion. I don't know about that, but I think it's a good idea. He could play an older Luke, and people would absolutely accept it. Maria Espino says you've already got Alden Ehrenreich as Han. You've got Lando. You've got in Dawn as Lando. Donald Glover, yes. I always think of him as Donald. Donald Glover as Lando. They're doing the Donald Glover movie, Lando movie. I wonder if they're gonna do Lando Calrissian and the Mind Harp of Sharu, or Lando Calrissian and the Flame Wind of Ocean. I love those books. They could do them. They probably won't, but they could. Stephen Bro, I think I get that right. I'm watching the crowd-funded Outlaw Johnny Black Dynamite spiritual prequel at an AMC tomorrow.
Yeah.
It looks good.
Yeah. It does look good, bro. Like, bro, Black Dynamite is a classic, bro. That film, bro, yeah. I definitely would go see it. I would definitely go see that in theaters, bro. Seriously, this film, it looks awesome, bro. And plus, definitely he's playing to his strength because he's an action hero, but just his stoic comedy is incredible, bro. I love it. It's great. And on top of that, bro, it's good to see the play on blaxploitation films again, bro, done in such a way that is so creative, bro. And they're not deviating away from how it was told, the stories that were told back then. I like it, bro. It's incredible.
I hope the movie's good. It looks really funny. I can't wait to see it.
Yeah.
Maria Espino goes on to say Thomas Logan says Millie Bobby Brown is Leia. That would be great casting. I'd watch that.
That would. And wait, because remember they did say that they talked to her about a project. So, hey, we could get her, and a young Han. You never know. Like, again, bro, I just got to watch and see how things going to play out. But hell, you never know, man. She's been quiet about it. She hasn't really said too much when asked. She's been, pretty much on the hush. So, Rob, let me ask you a question, bro.
Uh-oh.
Again, I'm just completely out of the loop. Aside from talking to a friend of mine, Lori, about this, is there any hope? Any hope, bro? Is there any hope right now? Is there any light that you can see at the end of the tunnel when it comes to this strike? How long do you think it's going to actually be, bro? How much longer do you think it's going to actually be?
That's a good question. Well, they're supposed to go back to the negotiating table soon. I know everybody wants it to be over. I think that this strike, to be honest, was not thought through very well because the business aspects were not really well considered. And at least the way I perceive it. And again, I'm really on the outside looking in. But what's different about this strike, like they really need to talk to Amazon, Netflix, and Apple. And the problem with Amazon and Apple is their primary business is not making movies and TV. They do that as an adjunct to their main business. Apple is obviously selling iPhones and laptops and technology. And they want you, sure, it's cool that they make great shows. And because they don't, their business is not necessarily reliant on it, the stuff they do make is for the most part really pretty good. And the same is true of Amazon. I mean, Amazon sells you a $179 Prime membership, and the amount of crap I buy from Amazon or gets shipped to me, that $179 pays for itself in a month. So, so they're making TV shows. They have Amazon Prime. We get The Boys because they want you to pay $179 for shipping. That's what that's all about. So their interests in making movies is not the same as what the writers or what the actors are looking for. I mean, they still need writers and actors to do it, but in terms of going into a negotiating room, you know, it's harder to deal with people whose livelihoods are not dependent on the product that they're making. And Netflix, they only make money through subscriptions. So it's like what residuals? Like, we're going to pay you, like, so, and I see where Netflix is coming from. Netflix is like, okay, we're going to make, let's just say Netflix says we're going to make 100 shows a year. And yet only 5 of them are going to be breakthrough hits. So, and then of all the shows, like, Netflix won't even make a show. They'll go pay to put Suits on Netflix. They'll license Suits. Suits becomes, for whatever reason, one of the biggest shows they've ever put on their platform. And people are screaming that Netflix should pay the writers of Suits. And what they don't realize is Netflix already paid to run Suits. They had to pay a licensing fee to run Suits. They paid Universal. The question that should be asked is, did Netflix make any money because of Suits? So you have the actors bitching. A writer wrote an editorial in the Los Angeles Times that when Suits went to Netflix, all he got was like $250. Well, that's because Suits is almost 15 years old, and you got paid during the 9 years you worked on the show. Then it's been showing on other networks, and the reason you got a $200 residual check is because Netflix licensed the entire series. So everybody that worked on that show that was entitled to residuals got a little taste. And so the question is, how is Netflix making any money off running Suits? Where's the correlation between the money Netflix is taking in and the residuals the writers want to get paid? Now, there's a lot of stuff, writers' rooms and being able to have writers' assistants, that keeps the business going. I understand all that. But the residual model in the streaming age no longer exists. Like, if Netflix isn't, and then people are like, well, Netflix is making money. Yeah, Netflix is making money only. Yeah, they're ad tiers, but they're not making a lot of money on that. The question is, did Suits make Netflix any money? Suits was a cost. It was a negative cost. You know, they had to spend for it. And so I think a lot of the things that the writers are fighting for, it's situational depending on who they're working for and how they're working for them. So it's not like it used to be where all the studios had the same business model. So back to the original question is, I think there's going to have to be, like in any negotiation, a lot of compromise and a lot of, I mean, they're trying to protect for the future. And they're like, we don't want to use AI. It's like, AI's here, man. It's already here. You're not going to put that genie back in the bottle. The real question is the Writers Guild should be thinking, what is the world going to look like in 20 years? And what it's going to look like in 20 years, that's what we need to be fighting for. Yeah. They're not, they're not, and I don't know what that is. I don't know if you hire a futurist or whatever, but in terms of the strike lasting for a long time, I think this strike it's going to end. I think they might end up making individual deals with each studio or something.
I don't know. I think basically I want it's fair is fair. I just want to see across the board there's fair treatment. I think that's, definitely where I'm sitting. I
do too, but
that people, I look, from a realistic standpoint, I get everything, but I just think that, it's fair is fair, and people who are, if you're not like an A-lister, somebody out there that's basically making buku money, I saw a lot of people that were upset because Margot Robbie, they just basically saw her on the front line just like a few days ago, whatever. But they were like, well, a lot of people were saying, well, why are you there? Because you basically had a good run with a $1 billion franchise or $1 billion film as far as Barbie. A lot of people are like, you were able to promote that film. And, a lot of people, they were just basically going at her for that. I saw that. And I'm like, yo, there doesn't really need to be distinction within the ranks. But the thing is, it's like, as long, everybody needs to get paid. At the end of the day, paid for your work. But again, it's a platform that I completely, from that aspect of it and on that side of the business that, people like me don't really understand, because I'm only seeing it, from the eyes or through the eyes of the actors, and the writers who have, put forth effort to giving us a level of entertainment. And I just want to see that they get their just due and us get the entertainment that we want. But the thing is, I'll be I'll be patient for two different reasons. Patient enough to basically make sure everything is fair, and also patient that once things do kick back in motion, that we really get good material. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah, no, I'm with you too. I mean, in theory, the problem is the world is changing rapidly, and everyone's trying to play. This strike is all about trying to play catch up. You know, we want, and the world is different. I mean, I could see a world where, if you want to use Writers Guild writers, and a lot of this is, then you have to abide by the writers, what they're asking for, and I could see each studio individually signing up, and some people might not. I mean, Netflix might not be able to. You know, and it's just a weird world, because people are like, well, this executive makes this much money and he could pay this. The thing is, if you got the person who's running, like Bob Iger, who's now running Disney, he's not just making movies. He has to oversee, you know, cruise ships and amusement parks and all this other stuff. And the reason he gets paid the big bucks is because of his skill set and his skill. I just don't like when people equivocate. Well, this person's making this. I'm like, what does that have to do with you? And everyone's always trying, well, this person gets this and that. It's like, it doesn't matter. It ain't show friends, it's show business. You don't get what you deserve, you get what you negotiate. And if somebody negotiated that deal, good on them. If they were able to get that kind of stock option or that kind of money, they deserve to get it, because whoever was working for them or whatever they did, they were able to get that themselves. And anybody would do the same thing. And this idea, like, I don't understand. Well, you know, we're only writing 10 episodes now, so we have to make a working. Like, I've had to multitask my entire entertainment industry career. I'm editing, I'm producing, I'm out there doing all kinds of different things. I might do 5 different things in a day. In the last week, I've been producing a movie. I've been planning a scripted podcast that we're going to crowdfund. I've been dealing with agents and managers on another project. I've did a rewrite of a script that I have to do to somebody else, in addition to streaming on YouTube. And it's like, I'm not sitting there going, you know, I need to make a living wage and expect somebody to give it to me. I have to go out and get it. And it's not just for working on one TV show, you know, or something like that. And I think it's when TV shows went from 26 episodes a season, like Star Trek, down to 10, and you have the same size writer's room and everybody needs to be writing or whatever, it's problematic. You know, and the world has changed, and you have to figure out, okay, with that world changing, what are we going to do? How are we going to get paid residuals? Like, what's really interesting to me is when the residuals were created for TV writers in the 1950s, a show would air 5 times. If it aired 5 times, you would get 5, and then afterwards, after you got your 5 residual payments, you were done. Well, if one person, I mean, the funny thing is with residual payments, when you had it on pay TV, and each television show was paid for by advertisers, and it ran once, and you could get the overnight ratings, and you knew that, okay, 20 million people watch this, so our ad rates are this amount of money, and this amount of money should pay for the TV show and have a built-in profit, because if you make a show that people love, then the ad rates go up, and then everybody gets a piece of that pie. Well, what if there's no ad rates on streaming? You know, and how many shows did Netflix make that people don't watch? You know, they might make one show that's a Stranger Things breakout hit and 20 other shows that nobody's watching. But they still have to pay for those 20 other shows, and yet the people that create the hit show are the ones that are like, well, where's my money? Well, it's over here in these other shows that we made that didn't make any money, because it's not ad-based. So it's not like a popular show is getting an outside advertiser to give you bucks for it. So it's a really weird thing. And then, you know, the whole thing about going after the infighting amongst the people, it's not good either. It doesn't help. And clearly there's people that are willing, like the whole Drew Barrymore thing. Everyone got so mad at her because she was actually complying with guidelines. They just didn't like the idea of her going back to work. And I understand that. But if she's not employing WGA writers, and she's not talking about struck programs or anything like that, and she's complying with what they're saying, yet she's still considered or seen as being a scab, well, what about the 100 people that work for her, that work on the show? You've got the writers. The writers are out of work, and she owns her show. You know, she's a producer. I mean, someone else owns it too, but with her, she's running a business and she has all these people, and she's been on hiatus since before the strike started. She already showed solidarity by not taking the hosting gig for the MTV Awards, and she already and yet now it's a complicated thing. But ultimately, I still think the strike could drag on till the end of the year. But hopefully cooler heads will prevail. But even if it did, it's like, how are they going to get the new fall TV season up and running? You know, it's when the second season of Star Trek: The Next Generation, you know, they had less episodes that season. They had, I think, 22, and it was a problem. I don't know.
Be tough, man.
This next week should be telling, I think. Jermaine King says, I'm headed to watch your favorite show, Invasion. I know that like the second season's out. Maybe it'll be better than the first season. The first season, I've never watched an alien invasion show, and I'll watch any alien invasion show that put me to sleep faster than Invasion did. I hope you all have a great stream. May the force be with you and live long and prosper. Well, thanks, Jermaine. Report back and tell me what you think about Invasion. Fat Loba says just £2 in honor of a cultural hero. Surely you're not talking about us, are you? But thank you. I appreciate that. Pounds are good. Remember what was the song that started the 80s song? You know, it went pounds, dollar, millionaire, dollar, pounds, dollar, millionaire, dollar. Remember that song? How to Be a Millionaire. ABC, right? Anyway, I don't know what I'm thinking. Dan,
I can't remember. Man.
It's like I think that was the 12-inch remix version. I don't know. How to Be a Millionaire. Anyway, whatever. I'm losing it. Dan Candy says, Robert, do you think Sean Dan will pop up on Ahsoka selling his pocket-sized aquariums to Thrawn? Ooh, that's a deep cut. Do I think that? No. I do not. But hey, you know what? You never know. I don't know. The question is, Dan, do you think Sean Dan will show up? No, I don't, to be honest. But anyway, I don't know I'm really curious to see what they do with what they do. And Sean Dan, wasn't Sean Dan on the holiday special? The Star Wars holiday special?
I think so.
know.
I'm not really sure.
I think
have
Sean
no
Dan
idea.
was on the holiday special. I'd have to look it up. I seem to remember that. I seem to remember Sean Dan on that. I was like, where did Sean Dan? I think Sean Dan was on the holiday special. I think. But no, if Sean Dan is no, the answer is no. Dan Candy.
Nah.
Maria Espino says Amazon Prime price increased to $199 a year. I thought it was only $179 a year. Now remember, that's all your shipping. So if you buy lots of stuff from Amazon, like I don't know, omnibuses. These are heavy. If you get omnibuses from Amazon, you can work out with these things. So
yeah. I know I just got my notification that my Disney Plus increased. So
yeah, and that's another thing. All this streaming is going to increase, and
yeah, bro. All of them notifications are coming out by the dozens. Like this is increasing. Yeah, it's like again,
everything.
People who thought cutting the cord was going to be a smart move. Yeah, nah. It ain't.
And also,
everything circles back around, bro.
With inflation the way it is, when does the money train end? Like everyone is soaking the middle class consumer, expecting us to pay for all this stuff. I mean, when you have both Disney stock price, Paramount Plus's stock price, you know, you look at all these things, and how do they expect? They just keep increasing. Where do they think the money's going to come from? It's crazy. Maria Espino said, here's what's going to happen. Streamers will dismantle the concept of SVODs. We're just going to go back to network television commercials for Netflix and streamers only. I don't know. I don't know if people will put up with that. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, I don't know. Dan Candy says, yes, Sean Dan was played by Art Carney in the holiday special. I try to not think about
Art
the holiday
Carney,
special.
Good call.
Art Carney, bro.
Love Art Carney, but the holiday special. Sean Dan. I don't even know why I remember that. But anyway, what can you say? Kevin Frazier says, keep billowing your fire. Always. Lael, I'm going to read it how he wrote it. Lael, you real as fuck and we love it. And R&B, thanks for helping me to not only think outside the box, but create new ones. That's like the best compliment anyone can give me. Love y'all. That is all. That's from Kevin Frazier. Thank you, Kevin.
What's up, Kevin?
That's a very nice thing to say. I really appreciate that. Not just think outside the box, but create new ones. That's the future, man. Creating a new box. It's true. So I don't know what else. What else do you guys want to discuss? And if you're tired, we don't have to keep going. We can just whatever you want to do. Because I don't have I was looking for topics. There's lots of political stuff, but who needs to get into that? I mean, did you hear that Lauren Boebert was in seeing Beetlejuice, and she got kicked out, they said, for vaping, but somebody has a picture of her, like her boy, she was messing around with her boyfriend in the theater. See this?
Yeah, they got somebody has it looks like it's like a
black
and white video footage, like somebody
surveillance camera,
surveillance camera. And somebody said that, well, okay, so there's so many different stories. It's crazy.
Like, is that
somebody
real?
Said that. So, I don't know, bro, because you can't really. It's weird, but they said that she was, she was jacking him off while he was frolicking with her, and I was like, it's a lot of time with somebody's hand to kind of dissect that because I couldn't. I really.
First of all, who goes to a theater to get a handy? Come on. I mean, a
then
movie
Beetlejuice,
theater,
bro.
maybe.
Hey, Robert. Now, let's be fair here, okay? For many people, this is the one time that they can stretch out and discover each other. And
wait, but this isn't a movie theater. This is like a Broadway show.
Yeah.
Well, if you have a coat over your lap, don't look at the coat.
There was no
Just
coat.
There was no
look
coat.
straight.
But come on, when you go to aren't you worried about other patrons? It's like I can look in a movie theater. You get in the back row. First of all, I don't do that. I've never made out in movie theaters. I find it fucking annoying.
Wow, come on, bro, you didn't,
dude? Because I want to. I was too much of a movie fan. I'm always like, yeah, baby, what's happening? I can never. I told you the famous story about. I've told the story a million times. I'll tell it again. So we had elementary schools feeding into two junior highs where I'm from, and then we had the two junior highs feeding into a high school, and so we went from being ninth graders to being sophomores, and so people didn't know each other from the different high schools. I mean, from the different junior highs until we got to high school, and this girl asked me out. This girl, Julie Williams, who we didn't really talk much in high school, but she asked me out. She was a pretty girl, and we went and saw The Road Warrior. Her older sister and her boyfriend took us to see The Road Warrior, and we're all sitting down, and Julie's like, why don't we sit behind them? And I'm like, okay. And I'd seen The Road Warrior like 4 times, 5 times, and she kept trying to, put the moves on me. And I'm like, it's the fucking Road Warrior. Why would you, what? And then she told everybody at school on Monday that I was gay. Because I didn't want to. Yeah. And this kid, Keith Shems, came up to me and he's like, so man, I hear you're gay. I mean, I'm a sophomore in high school.
Wow.
And then
funny.
I was like, what, do you need a date? Not that, I didn't hold that against him, but we're talking, it was the early, not early, but mid 80s kind of.
Yeah.
And and it was funny because when people, this was the funny thing. People are like, Bob, why does everyone say you're gay? And I'm like, because I wouldn't make out with Julie Williams in the movie theater. And they're all like, they're all like, oh. And then people would stop and think about it, and they go, well, what movie was it? And my friends would go, what movie was it? I'm like, The Road Warrior. And people like, no one's going to make out with a girl in The Road Warrior. And I go, I know. So, that's a true story. But I guess if you're with Lauren Boebert, you just can't keep your your hands off your junk.
I don't know. That's pretty wild, bro. And that
I mean,
it's
what
out
kind of
there
snacks
like that.
did you have? Was it the snacks that made her, just incredibly
No, it was
aroused?
just my amazing magnetism and wit.
Bro,
I mean,
like,
how
many times did you see Road Warrior in the theater, bro?
That was the 5th.
Okay.
I'm sorry, dude. It's The Road Warrior, man. I can't, And by the way, it's not exactly the kind of movie that you're going to get here. I'm not going to get my freak on in a theater. I'm going to watch that movie. That movie's amazing. Every time I saw it, I learned something more about it.
Bro. Yeah.
No.
I think you missed out on a great opportunity, Robert.
I don't know. I have to say that I don't think I missed out on many things in my high school years. I just want to say.
I could imagine you explaining that shit, bro. It's like a group of friends. And they're like, they ask you these questions. He's like, it was the fucking Road Warrior, man. I can't.
That's exactly what it was. But the funny part was they all understood. They're all like, "Oh yeah, of course not."
Bro, that's funny. Funny.
No, but funny. Because movies were like my church. It was very difficult. I mean, I'm not saying I never made out with girls in movies. I'm not saying that, but to me, it was really. The thing is, if I went to a movie that I hadn't seen, it was next to impossible for me. I couldn't concentrate on either thing. And if you're going to make out with a girl, you want to be really good at it. And you want your attention focused. Otherwise, she's going to know. And if the worst thing in the world would be to make out with a girl and have her say, "You're not even paying attention to me." That's like the kiss of death.
I mean, did you? Okay, Rob, let me ask you a question. Did you have an inkling that she was into you like that and wanted something like that to happen?
No, because another thing is I didn't really know her. I'd known her for like the week. It was like the first week of school. And I didn't know much about her at all. We hadn't even talked or anything. Not that I usually that's not a problem for me, but it was like we'd been together in this situation. They picked me up and I'm in a car with her, and then suddenly it's like
Rob, can I say something, bro? The amount of escapades, bro, you got more ass than car seats, bro, back in the day. Just the stuff, like, just the stories that you tell, bro, like, damn, bro, like, there's a lot of people that would literally want to live vicariously through you.
Okay.
This is why you are the most interesting fucking man.
Here's
bro, I'm telling you, bro. Bro, where's your pimp coat? Like, where's your robe? Bro, like, straight up, like, come on, man. Like
my Schmodown jacket.
Where's it at, bro? Like, straight up.
Yeah,
like,
it's in the house. It's that way.
Man.
No, but you know what it was? It was I was just interested in the world. That's all. But it was because that was I was it really is a question of all you need to do is learn how to handle people in public, and it'll take you a long way. Bro. I work with the public since I was 13 years old.
Yeah.
So, it was easy to talk to people, and you learned how to make people. So I was good at talking to people from a young age.
Equity group. Rob was hitting him with that Hu Yang. Ooh, good one. Definitely good one.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, those are the days.
Could you imagine, Rob? Let me set this up. Could you imagine being a guy in the movie theater, right? And you're sitting in the theaters next to this woman, wondering if she was into you, and the only way that you could figure it out, the only way that you would know, is when she turns to you and she looks at you, and out of nowhere her hair starts billowing. That's the story of Mm's life. That's how a guy knew that she was into them. If
It's
her
true.
hair automatically billowed in a theater or anywhere, and just out of nowhere in a grocery store, that's how they knew.
But you know, I'll tell you something. I even had
You see?
but the thing is the billowing. How could you see it if it was dark in the theater?
Yeah, this is true.
You know, no, but
you could feel my hair.
Feel it
in your
billowing.
face.
Yeah.
That's what it was. You could feel the soft, gentle touch of my hair
okay. Let me
on you physically, and then you would know because you would respond to that somehow.
let me just say this about this Julie Williams story. I kind of had a policy that when I was dating in my younger days that I would never kiss a girl on the first date.
Oh, that's cool.
Like intentionally. And however, if the date went really, really well, you know, you always walk a girl to the door.
Yeah.
You know, and you had to be emphatic if the date went great. You would have to, you know, walk to the door and small talk or whatever, and you'd have to end it this way. This is how I would end it. I would say, and by the way, you had to sell this. You couldn't make this up because if it wasn't true, she would know. So if you really wanted to see her again, you'd say, you know, I really had a great time tonight, and I can't wait till I can see you again. And then you leave, and you don't kiss her. And the next morning, or in the afternoon, the next day, you call her. And if she accepts and then you can kiss her. or whatever else is going to happen.
It seems reasonable.
Yeah. Because the thing is, here's the thing. There's too much pressure on a first date when you go to the door, you know. But and I think it's appreciated because sometimes a girl doesn't know if she even wants to kiss you yet. And you don't want to impose. See, this is my problem with everything that goes on now. Well, how do you know if there's consent? It used to be that people were smarter about these things. You know, that you could tell as a guy if a girl didn't want to kiss you right away.
Language,
you knew
bro.
that.
Body language.
Yeah.
The time she showed up at your house, if it was after 12 o'clock midnight, she knew exactly what was going down. Stop playing. Like, definitely, it was the signs, bro. It was all.
Well, yeah, but by the way,
Maybe a
both
Man After Midnight, of course. But
both
what
parties.
if you go to see Hunger or something like that? What if
What'd
you
you
go
say?
to see a movie like The Hunger or something in that order? I mean, you're going to have a reaction to the film.
Okay. See, now you've brought in. This is the thing that we weren't bringing up. When it came to home video, that changed everything.
Oh, it changed a lot.
Because I would take movies over to girls' houses that were specifically designed to, you know, get them thinking about, for whatever reason. I mean, in college, late college, The Lost Boys. Somebody should have written a thing about, I don't know why, maybe because it was Billy Worth's hair. His hair was billowing in The Lost Boys. But, you know,
bro, that movie was a sensual movie, bro. I don't care what nobody says. It was so much sexuality in that film.
I know.
Like, literally, bro.
Tongue in it. There was a lot of tongue and a lot
The
of
saxophone riffs, like, let you know what you were into, bro.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And it's the 80s, bro. Come on.
Yeah,
man.
and it depended what movie, and a lot of the time when you went over to someone's house and brought a movie over, it ended in a little something, something, you know, and so that changed the dynamic. And when I was younger, you know, I was there for the dawn of the video era and bringing movies over to people's houses and all that. And then, of course, in high school, nobody had their own place, so that was always the kind of and the thing about movie theaters is they didn't offer any privacy, and a lot of the time I was going to movies on the opening night, like on Friday. If you're going to a second, like Road Warrior, okay, it had been playing all summer, but if most of the time I'd go to movies the night they opened, and back then there wasn't like a Thursday preview night, so you'd go the Friday the movie opened, and it was packed. Yeah, it was packed. So you're not no one's making out in a movie theater in a packed house.
Drive-in.
Well, yeah, but we didn't. You know, I didn't like drive-ins because the quality was shitty. I always went to the best theaters. I went to either the 70 millimeter, the big one screen. So I
mean, the drive-ins is the reason why I bring up a drive-in, because it's like, look, if you've seen the film in theaters, if you've gotten your fix to see it in theaters, and then you just want to go with a group of friends outdoors, or you want to go with someone special, then you can, you got to give and take a little. You got to give up that experience to get a brand new experience.
Yeah,
bro.
but
That's
it was
the way it is.
It was that's what house parties and stuff were for.
My house, hell, it's too many people in the house party, bro. Somebody's always distracting you. I want the privacy of a comfortable home. Yeah, video, DVD, whatever, and you're setting the mood. Look, see, this is Rob. How I always knew is if I was going over to a female's house, bro, and again, you read the signs. It was always she sets the mood. Yeah. She sets the mood within the home. If the lights are dimmed, if like literally there's a certain music, like if there's songs playing in the background, if I knew that there was no one there, or if like even like in adulthood, if you're going over to somebody's house, bro, like normally the mood is set. If it's bright in the home and she sits further away from you, that's usually letting you know that, okay, she's wanting to get to know you. But if it's basically a love seat where only two people can sit, come on, man, you know what time it is. But again, nowadays, if like literally, if I was single, if I was a single man going over to a woman's house, I'd take a clipboard with me with some documentation on it. Definitely, I'm asking some questions. Literally, I am. I'm asking you some questions. Okay, number one, is this consensual? Are we consenting to or consenting adults? Okay. What was your last boyfriend's name? How long did that relationship last? Do you have history of such and such, whatever? I'm asking questions. I want to know everything.
Oh, dude,
I'm literally out. That's the world we live in now, bro. You have to ask the right questions. People are afraid to get in relationships nowadays, bro, because it's the fear of, it's the fear of being labeled or, running into problems where somebody might say something or, you might say something that might be misconstrued or, certain actions might looked upon as, if there's advances that weren't welcome or whatever. It's a scary time, bro. Like that's why again, you love the one you're with, bro.
Yeah, you couldn't pay me enough. I mean, the thing is, everybody for the most part, everybody was on the same page when we were growing up. When I was growing up, certainly, everybody was on the same page, and it wasn't. Even when I was in high school, there was not a lot of instances, and people would say, "Well, that's just because you didn't hear about them." But no, I mean, we were a randy bunch. Yeah, and it is the world has changed in a weird. What's really weird is now there's more. Yeah, there's more pornography on the online at the touch of a button, and there's so much. So, I think I don't know what it's. I can't imagine what it's like to be 16 today,
bro. The art of communication is gone.
No,
literally,
no one has game.
No, bro, because definitely, because you're living in an age right now where you definitely don't have to have any, bro. It's crazy, but you don't. But the thing is, it's like the art of communication for us definitely was important because for the long term, bro, like the long game, it elevated us into, that level of communication where we are right now. I mean, having those conversations on a porch, with your girlfriend, you know what I mean? Those long conversations you would actually have on the phone, those long walks, you know what I mean? Falling asleep people don't do that anymore. Falling asleep on the phone with your girlfriend, bro, going to the movie theaters, stuff like that. I mean, stuff like that still happens, but not the way it used to, when we were coming up. And I know we're old as shit. I embrace that.
I mean, but I had a girl that loved Prince. And I had a double-sided cassette that was a 120-minute tape. And we had like a 120-minute routine. We would drive out to Alki or we'd drive out to West Seattle and play this tape, and you couldn't see in the car windows. They were dripping with atmosphere by the time we were done.
Windows.
I mean, it was awesome, and it was all to Prince, and and it was designed to take you on a bit of a journey. And that was the funny thing is we would drive into Seattle because if we got caught, no one knew us, so it didn't matter. I saw so and so. It was I can't even imagine that because like you said, I got into shenanigans when I was really young.
a different jurisdiction.
Yeah. I never that. You know what? A different jurisdiction. I've never heard that before until just now. But it's weird because that was a primary motivating factor. Was to me a great night when you went out was you wanted to hook up with a girl. That was it. That was my motivating, and for a long time, for like 25 years. I mean, that was it. And you had to have a whole skill set to know how to do that. And once you got there, you had to know what you were doing, and you better be pleasant to be around. Like, you know, you better be somebody you always wanted people to come back. Have a good time. That was a whole way of life. And that meant, like the Boy Scouts say, be prepared. You know, that means, you know, when you go out at night, you're freshly shorn, you're ready to go. You're ready to rock and roll if you need that to happen. But I don't see that. We live in a world, such a bizarre, like raunchy comedies. We had Bottoms, and it's really interesting that there were two raunchy comedies that came out this summer, and one of them was about two lesbian high school students that found a fight club to meet chicks, which was Bottoms. And then you had a movie I actually liked, which was Joyride, you know, which was also from the female perspective. I don't think you could even make a raunchy male-centric comedy today because people would call it either rapey or misogynistic or like The Last American Virgin or Porky's or any one of the million teen sex comedies they made that were on cable TV in the early 80s. Nobody even makes that stuff anymore. Which is so weird to me. And all I do is hear stories. I heard a story yesterday that said 30% of men who are 30 are virgins.
Damn.
What?
Yeah. I'm like, I can't even fathom. But our world isn't geared to that. People don't even think people see that as a goal. You know, on one hand you have a skyrocketing amount of girls in high school declaring themselves as non-binary. And like I've said on this show before, I'm like, what does that mean for your sex drive? Like if you're a teenager, and I would think that if you declare yourself non-binary, that means you can sleep with whoever you want, which doubles your chances on a Friday night.
But we know that they're not having sex.
Well, that's the thing. I think it means they don't want to have sex, and by saying that they're non-binary, they don't have to deal with it. In my day, if someone said they were non-binary, I'd be like, yes! What are we doing tonight? And who are we doing it with? You know, and that's I don't know. I don't understand the modern day because I'll tell you something else. What's missing from our pop culture is so I'll tell you a funny thing that happened this week to me. I was asked to write an article. On one of my Robservations, I had said, I was talking about Taylor Swift and how Taylor Swift, for a number of reasons, there's an argument to be made that she's one of the great voices of our generation in terms of pop stars. Yeah. And I got a call. A friend of mine said that there's a woman at Newsweek, now it's online, but Newsweek wanted me to write an article about why Taylor Swift, because the way I had put it, here's how I explained it. When I was in Denmark in 2012, I was visiting a friend of mine, and her daughter was 12 years old, and we got along really well. And I threw her a horror film festival over 3 days. And in Copenhagen, there's an amusement park called Tivoli, which is what Walt Disney used to sort of inspire him to make Disneyland. Mm-hmm. And you know, this girl, she was very smart and funny. And I asked her once, I said, "How do you decide?" I really liked her sense of style. Now, keep in mind, this was in 2012. I said, "How do you pick your sense of style?" And she said, "Well, I try and wear things that are Swiftish." And this is in 2012. And I go, "What does that mean?" She goes, "You know, stuff like Taylor Swift would wear. I really like her style." And I was like, wow. And that was the first time, like, I had known Taylor Swift won like American Idol or something, and I was aware, but she was so not of whatever I was interested in. But to hear this now, This summer, cut to this summer, an old girlfriend of mine, her daughter parked her car in our driveway and then I drove her to the airport, and she went to Europe, and she traveled around Europe, and as part of a choir, singing like in Wales and in Ireland. And when she came back a little early. She was practically jumping. When I picked her up at the airport to take her back to her car, she's like, "Oh my God, I can't believe it! I'm so excited!" And I go, "Well, what?" And she goes, "I'm going to the Eras tour. I'm going to see Taylor Swift tomorrow at SoFi Stadium." And I'm like, "Really?" And she goes, "Yeah, I think she's 22 now." She goes, "When I was 9 years old, I sang a Taylor Swift song and I won a talent contest, and it really set me on my way. And I wouldn't have become a singer without her. I wouldn't have just come back from this European trip." And so, and then if you look at what Taylor Swift did, like what happened to Scooter Libby, and her taking her master tapes and all that, and that she had the publishing, so she was able to re-record her own records to fuck Scooter Libby, and I'm like, that's a baller fucking move.
Yeah.
And from a business standpoint, if you think about it, she has a cadre of close girlfriends that have stuck by her all this time. And the thing is, if you look at her, she's a beautiful woman, but she's not a beautiful woman that is treading on her sex appeal. And her audience is predominantly, you know what I see her as? She's the queen nice girl. Even though she's fabulously wealthy and incredibly talented, she's still accessible. Like, all girls believe that Taylor Swift could be their best friend. Or they'd want, because she's not like other girls that seem unattainable. She has made herself into somebody that is like the ultimate. She's the ultimate best friend. She's the cool girl that you think you could be friends with. And I think that's why her success is so amazing. And if you look about this, the fact that she filmed one of those SoFi concerts not too long ago, she's got $100 million in pre-sales for a concert movie.
Yeah.
I mean, the woman's incredible. And so I was talking about it in those kind of terms, and they asked me to write an article. And I'm like, it would be pretty hilarious that a white man, a middle-aged white man, would write an article about Taylor Swift being the icon of her generation for a number of reasons. But I do think she's become an icon because she inspired a lot of young girls to empowered them, and they used that empowerment and carried it with them. Like the girl who is 12. In Copenhagen is now like a molecular biologist studying at the greatest medical institutions in Europe, getting her PhD. And so I think there's a lot to be said about that, and especially her business acumen, her music. I mean, she's directing music videos. And the funny thing is, I don't even know, I couldn't even begin to, can you imagine what it'd be like to date her? Like, I'm not worthy. I could never date. Even if I was the handsomest dude in the world, I could never date, and the richest guy in the world, I could never date a person like Taylor Swift. I don't even know what that's like. I couldn't even begin to fathom it. How do you even kiss a girl like that, much less anything else?
Hey, all I can say is if you would treat her right, she'll write a song about you. So you don't want to do that, like, straight up.
Well, I mean, I can't even imagine. Like, I've often wondered, like, it would be really interesting to read or to watch a movie about somebody who dated a Taylor Swift. You know the movie Hitch? I fucking love that movie.
Yeah,
I love the movie Hitch, and when you have Kevin James, like, he's teaching Kevin James, like, you could get that model, you could go out with her, and like he kind of makes his way, and for a while it's like working, but it wouldn't be so, like, how would you even like, hey, you want to go see a movie? How would anybody date Taylor Swift? And that's a whole other, her boyfriends. I mean, I guess you meet celebrities in celebrity circles, but you can't go anywhere normal. No. Like, I can't go to you couldn't go anywhere. No. What do you do?
I mean, you just have to go to her house. That's it.
And take the Lost Boys.
Bring some videos.
Take the Lost Boys with you, bro. That's it.
But I don't even think
that's the thing, bro. Living or being someone as popular and really having a personal life it is like the toughest thing to really juggle, because you are known all over the world. You have no privacy, even if you demand some. You really don't, because everyone has they feel as though every aspect of your life is tangible. Like, that's just the way the world basically views it. So through your music, through your actions, whatever. And the thing is, they always say the most popular person in the world, the most known and most famous person in the world is the loneliest person in the world.
Right.
And I believe some of that, because it's like, you can't, again, like, having or formulating a relationship with someone like that is risky, because then your own privacy, people are asking questions, they're following you, they're wanting to know certain things, they're always looking for a scandal. It's a tough situation to be in. And even if she has the best of intentions, it's just super duper tough. It is. It's so tough. It is. I can only imagine, bro, like, how would it be like trying to date Taylor Swift, because you're not dating just Taylor Swift, you're dating her fans.
And you're dating the world. So apparently I just looked up who's Taylor Swift dating. She's apparently dating Travis Kelce, the star tight end of the Kansas City Chiefs.
Oh, that's right, the football player. That's right.
But who knows? I mean, I don't know. I don't even know, like, but again, anyway, so I might get to write an article about Taylor Swift for Newsweek.
Robert,
that's what I'll do it, bro.
Tom Jr. Jackson says that he had another super chat and he thinks that you missed the super chat.
Well, I haven't even. There's a lot of super chats because I haven't done them. Yeah, I should catch up. Let's see what I got here. Tom's probably talking about that he saw Haunting in Venice today, and it keeps you guessing till the end. And he got tickets for Poltergeist and The Godfather 2 next month.
Wow.
And then King Tannic says randos talk Ahsoka. Well, yeah, I want to see, because the new Hercule Poirot movie opened today, Haunting in Venice, which is very cool. I'm down. I can't wait to see that. I've liked those movies a lot, and it's cool that you could see Godfather 2 and Poltergeist in a theater. Let's see. Kevin Frazier. Oh, Fat Loba says, video game you liked, R&B, actual arcade game in arcades. Okay, growing up, some of my favorite video games: Star Castle, Scramble, Defender, Tecmo Bowl, and then, of course, Stargate, Joust, Robotron. That's about it.
I like the Dragon's Lair
Centipede,
and
Galaga. You ain't even talk about those games, bro.
Galaga was fine.
I mean, Galaga was the most mind-bogglingly tricky. The game. It was entertaining, bro, because you didn't know why you were sitting there for so long trying to get these spaceships on your side, bro. I love Galaga.
No, I love Galaga, but Galaga was there. I would have been second tier, but my game was Defender. Yeah. Defender was my favorite. It might be my favorite video game ever, but I also really like Star Castle. And then Asteroids, and but I'll tell you what one of my favorite video games was, and the only place I ever saw it was in Disneyland. When we came in the set, we'd come down to Disneyland like once every couple of years from Seattle, and it was a game. It was a vector graphics game like Asteroids, but it was called Lunar Lander. And you had the LEM, and you landed on the moon, and the only control was you had a big thruster control that you moved, and then you could rotate the lander left or right, and you literally are just trying to come down, and you're trying to land the lander on the ground on the moon without running out of fuel and blowing up. And I loved it because it was like a real space game. I'm like, it's like you're you're really in space. And the graphics were incredibly simplistic, and the only I loved that video game, and there was nowhere in Seattle that had one, because it was like a bigger console, and the I don't know why no one else had it. The only place they had it was in the video game. It used to be an arcade, if you know Disneyland, where Star Tours. It used to be Voyage Through Inner Space, and then they turned Voyage Through Inner Space into Star Tours. this shows what a geek I am. And then that the arcade was where the Star Wars shop is, and you come out now. But yep, Lunar Lander. So those are my favorite video games growing up. But those were my arcade days were 79 to 84. So those circa, that was the game. I mean, Joust even was on the later half of my video game playing.
Yeah,
So
Dragon Slayer. I used to definitely love that. Then basically I mean, oh my God, so many games, bro. When you think about it, of course, the X-Men, Mortal Kombat, when that dropped hours long in the
see, those were later. Those were 90s.
Well, I know
Yeah.
they were 90s, but still, like, I mean, I'm coming up basically through like the early 80s into like the 90s and how games had basically evolved. But again, for me, bro, like I was a Galaga dude, bro. I was a Centipede dude.
Oh, I loved. I mean, look, the
Centipede used to piss me off with that rolling ball, though. Just because sometimes it used to get stuck, and I'm like, "Come on, man! Like,
Bro.
literally, this is cheating." Yeah, bro. Yeah.
This is it. It has the trackball right here.
Yeah, the trackball used to get on my nerves, bro. It used
And
to
I mean-
always get on my nerves.
I mean,
man.
this is an exact replica of Centipede.
Yeah.
It plays like Centipede. It's an exact
Yeah.
replica.
Donkey Kong. Oh, Qbert, bro.
Dude, I got a Qbert one. I got a Qbert one of these right over there. You want me to
Bro.
tell you a secret? I own that Qbert thing. I don't know how to fucking play that game. I've never known how to play that game. I don't even know why. Dude, I've got the manual. This is so weird you brought it up. Here's the Qbert manual.
You don't know how to
and
play
it's
Qbert.
it's for this. It's a New Wave Toys. I bought the Qbert version of this just to learn to play it.
Bro, Qbert
Even when I was
is
a kid, I'm like,
amazing,
how the
bro.
fuck does it? I turn the game on. I don't know what to do.
Color coordination, hopping from one to the other, bro. Like, definitely Qbert was mind-boggling, but it was incredible, bro. I love Qbert, bro.
Dude,
And then remember they released the Qbert cartoon.
tell me how to play it. I have no idea.
Bro,
Here it
like,
is.
I would, yeah.
Here it is. Here's the
Hell
instructions.
yeah, bro. Hell yeah, bro.
I love these new Wave Toys games. They're putting out Berserk,
Yeah.
which is great. This conversation's got so weird,
Yeah, it did.
and I love it.
Definitely
For
did.
chats.
That was Fat Loba. Thomas Logan says free VHS copies of Free Enterprise will end the strike. I'd much rather get the rights to Free Enterprise back and do a 4K version of it. Dan Candy says, "Come on, Bob, haven't you seen Diner?" I've seen Diner. I own Diner, but I haven't seen it in a while. I don't know what necessarily you're referring to, the football test or whatever. Yes, okay. There's many things that go on in Diner. There. I see where I know where you're going with that. Maria Espino says Rob's cheeks got plenty wet in high school. Well, they did because that was a certain activity that not a lot of high school guys indulged in at that point. That was because of reading. I was reading horror.
It's fundamental.
Well, yes, I was reading horror novels, and horror novels had great depictions. I mean, I read the most violent, sexually explicit books in the world, but it described acts that were very appealing to me. So I would try them. And then when you did them, you had to be good at them because you didn't want to fail. So then you read other books.
Practice.
That's absolutely right. And that's something you can't practice on your own because you don't know if it works or not. Russell Whitfield says, coffee money for my co-host. Morning.
Good morning, Russ. How are you? Good to see you. Thank you.
Darth Plato says, what if it had been Jerry Ryan, Rob? You mean if I would have dated her like Brandon Braga? Well, it's funny that you say that because when Jerry Ryan moved to L.A., I knew her as Lynn. And she was friends with a girl I went to high school with named Kelly Goto, and they both went to Northwestern. And so when she first moved here, this is pre-Voyager, we would all hang out. And she was actually very nice. And I really liked her. And she came here to start a career. I think she'd won... She was like Miss Illinois or something like that. I don't remember exactly what it was. I'll tell you a funny thing that not a lot of people know about Jerry. So I knew her as Lynn Ryan. Then her name was actually Jerry Lynn Ryan or something, and then it was Lynn. Then it was just Jerry, and so my friend Sean Fanning, who is no longer with us, he created a character named Olive Boy, and Olive Boy was like this cartoon character. He had an olive head, and he did a series of like clubwear, because he worked for a clothing company, and so he did this clubwear stuff where Olive Boy for like skaters, and if you went to nightclubs or something, you could wear these cool shirts with this Olive Boy character on it, and Jerry Ryan modeled the Olive Boy stuff at the beach. And for the longest time, I had an Olive Boy poster of Jerry Ryan, and it's in Free Enterprise. We used it as set deck in Free Enterprise. And it's funny because other than that, I don't even know if she would remember any of this. But she might. It was when she first came here. So I never hit on her or anything like that. I was out of her league, man. And that was another thing. I had a great time. But I also knew what weight class I punched in. So I was never trying to I was very happy with where I was. Yeah. So I do know what if it had been Jerry Ryan. Al Renshaw says, why is Lucasfilm afraid of making Knights of the Old Republic? I don't know. Why do you think that is, Lael? I would have thought that was a no-brainer.
And that's the only thing that kind of...
It's their Star Wars Game of Thrones.
Bro, it is, but it's just like, you don't... Again, years ago, I'd say about, 4 or 5 years ago now that, Kathleen Kennedy made the announcement that they were going to do a Knights of the Old Republic. And I'm like, I knew then when she said it, I was like, yeah, there's no chance. There's no chance in hell that they would actually do this. I don't understand why they've been holding off for the longest time. I mean, it's definitely a lucrative franchise. It's basically a lucrative IP, something that they could capitalize on. And on top of that, bro, you're telling a totally different story before the Skywalkers. It's something that's completely amazing. But for the life of me, bro, when you have something, you have keys to a kingdom like that, and people want it, why don't you basically make it, bro? And there's so many opportunities to expand on history, bro. Like, and they just, I don't know. The way they're thinking right now, it's just like sometimes they have money on the table that they are walking away from, bro. Like, literally. They're walking away from a whole bunch of money, man. So I don't know.
And also, all you have to do is say it's Star Wars Game of Thrones. It's all there.
And everybody wants to know about Revan.
Right.
Everybody wants to see a live action Revan, bro. That has been the talk for the longest time. People want to see that. They want to see Revan. They want to see Darth Malgus.
Darth Malgus,
They want to see all of these individuals, and they're not. Come on, man. Come on.
Dude, I honestly don't understand.
Me neither.
I honestly don't understand.
Me neither, bro.
Culture Wars Diplomacy says, I work retail. It always warms my heart to see a kid wearing something like Killer Clown shirts or other classics. Okay, as we talked about, I think on this show, that I saw this TikTok video or something where somebody was interviewing kids in high school about the band shirts that they had on, like Nirvana, and the kids didn't know, not only did they not know the bands, they didn't know any songs that the band sang.
Wow.
And I'm like, that is so, like, when I was in high school or junior high, you wore a band shirt to pronounce who you were. Like, this is who I am. I listen to this kind of music, so you now know something about me. You would never wear a band shirt that you didn't know the band or the songs. That would just be, you'd just never do that. And it's so weird to me that kids would wear a shirt that they didn't know, but that's what, and maybe that TikTok was all made up or something, I don't know. But it was such a weird idea. But, Mellow Willow or Wilo says, Lael, we got to petition Rob to be the new Dos Equis man, the most interesting man in the fucking
most
world.
interesting man. That's what I'm saying.
I don't think. See, the problem was I was more interesting when I was a kid. I think that's the problem. I mean, I will say this: I had a lot of fun.
Interesting vicarious lifestyle right now. I'm telling you, bro. Like,
Dude, I sit in
You've
my
been
garage
smacking
and talk on YouTube and build Starship models.
Yeah, bro, you've been smacking cheeks for.
But that was my younger. The problem was I would be much further along in my career if I spent less time doing that. I mean, to be honest,
I don't think that's true. I'm sorry.
no, I wasted so much time. I mean, I wouldn't call it waste. I had fun.
Waste?
It was not a waste. No, but just in terms
bro,
of
just seeing you.
Maybe you
pictures,
needed
those
to
pictures. You were so happy in those damn pictures, bro. And every picture I
Double
saw
back.
you in,
Just enjoy
you,
it.
Rob, you had this face in every picture that we've seen. It was like, I'm
He was
getting
like-
me some of this. Yes, yes, G. You guys, you're seeing it right here. I'm letting you know. I'm getting me some. Bro, this is the way it was.
well, I mean, it was a different time. I mean, I have to say that for me, from the time I was 13 to the time I was 30, it was pretty great. I'm not gonna lie.
Bro, you are the Wilt Chamberlain of the YouTube.
I certainly don't have Wilt Chamberlain's penis. I'll tell you that. I wish I did. I don't.
Wow.
It still works though. It's funny. I keep
Wow.
reading all these. I get. There's what is the ad? It's for I want to say it's Kim's, some erectile dysfunction medication that I see everywhere. But the people that are using it are like 20, 25. I'm having my boy over tonight. And we're is it Kim's? I don't know what it's called. And I'm like, people, what? What? You're like 25. You why do you need this medicine? Anyway,
Bro,
I don't know.
is it called Hymns or
Hims,
something like
Hims.
that? Yeah,
that's
bro.
what it is. It's Hims.
That's what it is.
Kim's. It's not Kim's. I'm like Kim's. Hims. I'm like,
Those commercials are on constantly, bro.
yeah, but it's always young people.
Mm-hmm. I'm like, what? How are you having these erectile dysfunctions at your age? Like literally, like.
Maybe they're not having dysfunction. They just want to go for broke.
I don't know, man. I don't know what's going. I think it's a different. The whole culture has shifted. The whole idea of, you even watch what social media has completely, like the idea of what do people want, what do people want out of life, has really changed. And you watch all these YouTube programs. Like, have you guys ever seen like the dudes on Fresh and Fit or Abba and Preach or any of these programs that delve into relationships between men and women in their 20s and stuff? It's terrifying and scary and depressing all at once.
Yeah.
I'm like, is anyone having fun? Can we just go out and can we go out and build a bonfire at the beach and drink a sixer?
This day and age, fun for individuals is going on vacations and posting on social media about where you're going, the life that you're living. Fun is making sure that it's on display for everybody else to see. Nothing
And
is
altering
exclusive
your
anymore,
photos.
man. Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
It's not exclusive anymore. Bro.
Okay, let me tell you what I read today that I thought was the greatest thing in the world. So there's an article. So you've all heard of ecstasy, right?
You mean the drug or
Yeah.
ecstasy? Like is
No, ecstasy the drug.
Okay.
So ecstasy the drug was created by a German pharmaceutical company in 1913. And what it does is, unlike cocaine or anything like, it was called the psychedelic in this article. Ecstasy is not a psychedelic. All pure MDMA does is cause the serotonin that's already in your brain to dump all out at once. Normally it gets given to you in drips and drabs. So it and sometimes maybe it'll take you twice to get all of it. And it floods your system, creating euphoria. It is the greatest thing in the world. And the only thing better than taking good ecstasy is to be with somebody else and to fuck on ecstasy. If the two of you, it's unbelievable. And I recommend, nobody has lived life. You have not lived life until you're with somebody that you really like, that you really care about, and you already have something good. If you've never done it before, do it together.
I heard that about cocaine too.
No. I'm a fan. No, it's nothing. No, it's not. So here's the thing. So in 1986, ecstasy was turned into a Schedule I narcotic like cocaine and like heroin. It was made illegal. And it was made illegal because it was so many people were doing it, kids were doing it. And it was like a party drug. You'd take it at dance clubs and stuff. So it was made illegal, and there was all these things like, it'll ruin your spine. Well, I read today an article that they've been using, because they used a lot of ecstasy in talk therapy. They'd give it to people because it's euphoric and it makes you feel great, like it physically great. But it's not psychoactive. It literally is just the problem with ecstasy, though, is not health risks. It's when you come off it, it can screw up your serotonin, so people can be really depressed the next day. I was not one of those people, but it can happen. But they've been experimenting with people suffering from PTSD, and they've been giving them ecstasy. It might be legalized again. And it is, I'm just telling you, because now people talk about, Molly, or everything is garbage. The only way ecstasy is really good is if you have real MDMA that isn't cut with anything. And this is another problem. I wouldn't, if I was a kid, you can't take cocaine or ecstasy because it can be cut with fentanyl. I don't trust anybody. No one is, there's nobody you can.
The drugs before you
there's no fucking way. You couldn't, as much as I like to party, there was no way. I haven't done drugs in 15 years, and nor would I, because I don't trust anyone. I don't trust any. There's no way. But ecstasy, if they legalize that shit again, because everybody's taking pharmacological drugs, big pharma, ecstasy, that's the stuff. And let me tell you, if you're with somebody and you both do it together and it's reputable ecstasy from person you know, or if it's going to be over-the-counter controlled ecstasy and you get the best, there's nothing.
Pharmaceutical grade ecstasy.
That's I'm talking about pure MDMA, and there is nothing better than to do ecstasy with somebody, and you will spend hours fucking, and everything else. No part of your body will be left unturned. It's the greatest fucking thing ever, and I recommend it to everyone, even at my age. All I can tell you, and I read the article. It was in it was like on Yahoo News. Hang on, let me find it. And but the thing about it is like, you go to an EDM concert and take it. Now let me see if I can find this article, because here it is. Here's the article. Check this out. Yeah, it's Associated Press. This was today. Drug MDMA eases PTSD symptoms in a study that paves the way for possible U.S. approval. This was published this morning, or actually yesterday. The psychedelic drug, it's not psychedelic. It's not like psilocybin mushrooms. The psychedelic drug MDMA can reduce symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder, researchers reported in a new study published Thursday. The company sponsoring the research said it plans this year to seek U.S. approval to market the drug, also known as ecstasy, as a PTSD treatment when combined with talk therapy. It's the first innovation in PTSD treatment in more than 2 decades, and it's significant because I think it will open up other innovation. Oh, yeah, it will. Earlier this year, Australia became the first... Holy shit. Earlier this year, Australia became the first country to allow psychiatrists to prescribe MDMA and psilocybin, the psychoactive ingredient in psychedelic mushrooms. The drugs are gaining wider cultural acceptance in the U.S., part because of the efforts of the nonprofit advocacy group Multidisciplinary Association for Psychiatric Studies. For the new study, researchers measured symptoms in 104 people with PTSD who were randomly assigned to get either MDMA or a dummy pill during the 3 sessions 1 month apart. Both groups received talk therapy. Common side effects in the MDMA group were muscle tightness, nausea, decreased appetite, and sweating. It's probably because they were dancing. But one person in the MDMA group dropped out of the study. After treatment, 86% of the MDMA group improved on a standard PTSD assessment compared to 69% of the placebo group. The assessment measures symptoms such as nightmares, flashbacks, and insomnia. By the study's end, 72% of the people in the MDMA group no longer met the diagnostic criteria for PTSD.
Wow.
Boom, chicka, boom, boom. Man, what was that war about? I don't remember. Compared to about 48% of the psilocybin group. The results they got are very exciting, said Barbara Rothbaum, who directs the Emory Healthcare Veterans Program in Atlanta. They're very effective. Before MDMA could be prescribed in the U.S., the Food and Drug Administration would need to approve it, and the Drug Enforcement Administration would need to change its classification. Take it off the Schedule 1 list, please. MDMA is currently classified as Schedule 1 on par with heroin and deemed to have no currently accepted medical use and a high potential for abuse. By the way, that is bullshit, just so you know. Because here's the thing with MDMA. When you have cocaine, you can never get enough of it. MDMA only works once. It only works because you only have a certain amount of serotonin in your brain. And if you have great MDMA, it might all be dumped at once, or maybe you have to take a second pill. But that's it. You can't keep taking MDMA and have something happen because there's nothing left to have happen. It's a one-time thing. That means if you get it, here I'm Mr. Advocate for MDMA. I've read books on the subject. You can only take it once. You can drink, but it'll just ruin your high. Because it's a naturally occurring thing. You are dumping serotonin into your body that you already have in your body anyway. And what you want is you want the full experience. And I'll tell you something. When I got married in Vegas for 2001, we got married over the New Year's Eve weekend. They closed Las Vegas Boulevard. My wife and I were flying on MDMA. Flying. And she had this fur coat on, and everybody we were with too, and everybody was like petting her fur coat. She's walking down, and midnight hit, and all the fireworks went off on all the tops of all the casinos, and I was just like, it was like the ending of Blowout, but nobody was getting killed, and I'm just spinning around watching the fireworks like, wow, this is the greatest moment of my entire life. And indeed it was. So, but remember, kids, if you're going to get MDMA, only do it once a month. You can't do it every weekend because you don't have your serotonin back. You really should do it, save it, and do it once a month, and do it with somebody you like to be with. Because it's not a drug like cocaine. It's not, you can't get high on it. It's a serotonin dump, and do it with somebody you like. And plan it. Ecstasy is a planning drug. You have to plan it.
Do it.
That's right. As Sidious said, do it. I'm just saying. But you know what? The thing is, if they legal, because here's the thing: there's horrible stuff that's legal, horrible pharmacological stuff that people are taking all the time. People take Wellbutrin like it's going out of style, but MDMA, classified as a Schedule 1 narcotic, that was because people were having too much goddamn fun on it. And that's what it was. So there's my pitch. And I didn't know it was legal in Australia. I'm going, man. I spent a year in Australia. It was the most fun year ever. If ecstasy was legal when I was down
12 years there, bro.
Dude, can you imagine ecstasy in Australia legal?
I'm boring. I'm a boring person. I've never.
Dude,
done a
you and
single
LaToya,
drug,
I'm
bro.
telling you. The earth would shake. Everybody in Pennsylvania would be like, what was that last night? I'll tell you what it was. Anyway, where were we? What were we saying?
3 hours, Robert. 3 hours.
Oh, yes. Tim Platt says, Rob for Hitch 2. Somebody should make Hitch 2. Will Smith was so good in that movie. And Eva Longoria,
Eva Mendes.
Eva Mendes. Eva Mendes was so good in that movie too. I love Hitch. I have that movie on Blu-ray. Yeah. I love Hitch. I love Hitch.
Such a good movie. Definitely.
And Will Smith was the perfect casting. That movie's great. I love it. Maria Espino says, video game content is structured differently, especially before the DCMA got passed. So a lot of the stories are still owned by the original developers. Oh, that's interesting. Like Richard Garriott still owns the story rights to all the Ultima games, even though he sold Origin to EA. Makes all of those old games hard to do. That's really interesting. That's kind of like the reason. So here's something that I've learned recently: that old IP, like the Predator IP and Die Hard or something, all of those IPs, if Predator was an original screenplay, and it was, after 35 years, all the rights to the underlying Predator material reverts back to the person who wrote it. So the screenwriter gets the rights back to Predator, meaning that Disney, and this was a problem when they made Prey, they had to make a special deal to get Prey made. But they were going to try and make a Die Hard 24 crossover movie with Jack Bauer, and they couldn't work it out because the Die Hard rights were reverting back. So now Die Hard is owned by Jeb Stewart and why am I drawing a blank on his name? Steven D'Souza. Or something like that. And then Die Hard is, of course, based on a novel called Nothing Lasts Forever. But so that could very well be with video games. That's why they can't do Knights of the Old Republic. That would make sense. I could see that. Wraiths X7 says, have you guys watched the live action One Piece series? What did you think of it? In my opinion, it was really good and very faithful.
I've only basically watched part of I think I'm still in the first episode. I haven't made it through it yet. So I definitely want to watch it, though, just for the kids, because I know they want me to. So I told them I would.
I heard it was good. Everybody keeps praising it and saying how great it is. So.
And our last, I want to see it. Prince Tron Marcellus Maximus says Prince had a bad trip on ecstasy in 1988 and made him scrap the Black Album and make Love Sexy. Bob. That I love the Black Album. It's so great. Bob George. It has one of the great lines. All you can do is suck up food and heat. I love that line. I love that album. It's so good. I love Prince. I didn't know that. But now remember, when you take ecstasy, it's not a trip. People have to understand. It was hard to explain this to people. It's the serotonin that's in your body already being dumped, flooding your body. So you're literally, in a way, it's kind of a natural, and it just feels incredible. You're not altering your body chemistry. Like when you're taking cocaine, you have to keep taking cocaine, and the act of doing coke just makes you want to take more. Ecstasy doesn't do that, but it does create a feeling that you want to last for as long as it can. But you can't extend it by doing anything, and a lot of people would make that mistake. Just saying. That's my half an hour diatribe about ecstasy. I didn't know it was legal in Australia, though. But yeah, I guess Sub McShave says, what is the PTSD that we'll use as an excuse to get ecstasy? Also, when is the next members chat? The next members chat is next Saturday. Roberto, he's got the academic credentials to get a lot of people in, so it's next Saturday. That's a good question. So for you members, next Saturday. But I'm going to drop a video this coming week that's for members only to look at.
Cool.
And then Jeremy Reyes says, so Rob, in the next other galaxy that Thrawn has been in, do you think theirs is Jedi and Sith having their own conflict going on as well, apart from ours? And Thrawn is like, wow, Jedi and Sith are here. That's interesting. Thanks. That's a good question. Is Thrawn, are there Jedi and Sith in the other galaxy?
Well, there are supposed to be basically. You got basically the Yuuzhan Vong. You got the Chith. You got basically there are Force sensitives, but again, look, if Morgan Esmith, she's saying that basically Thrawn was speaking to her. Again, Force projections. There has to be a Force sensitive over there helping him out. There's a lot going on that we don't know about, and if they're going off the books, we just got to kind of wait and see what they're going to.
I would love to see the Yuuzhan Vong invade, though.
That's what I'm saying. Like there's a lot that kind of goes into that, and we know that part of the reason why Thrawn joined the Empire was to kind of protect his people and prepare for something like that. So again, we know that the Empire, and the rebellion had to actually join, in the New Republic itself had to join together to fight this thing. So I don't know. Who knows what we're going to see? I guess we just got to kind of wait and see how it's going to play out.
Yeah, I mean, the Yuuzhan Vong is something else from the books I'd love to see, just to change it up a bit.
Yeah, definitely.
Because that was interesting. Well, we're at the end of this show, man.
Whew, 3 hours.
Let's talk more about ecstasy. By the way, time never goes faster than when you're on E. Never.
Definitely.
That's why it's fun to use it at a rave where the music just keeps going and going and going and going.
Justin Channel says that MDMA is very closely related to methamphetamine, but it is a slight hallucinogen, so many people have a bad trip on MDMA. Here's the thing. That wasn't what I understood or ever experienced in terms of hallucinogens. I mean, the euphoric feeling, but because I think now people, it's so cut with crap. And I that's why drugs today, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if people can it's not good. But if it gets legalized, we'll get the best. Hopefully the best.
Mm-hmm.
You need pharmaceutical grade, Robert.
Well, I'll tell you a funny story. So a friend of mine that I was working with on Lord of the Rings special features, comes to me one day because we used to party together, and he goes, "You're never going to believe this. I have a friend at the University of Colorado, and he's making absolutely pure MDMA." And we put together a fund and bought it.
Wow.
We did, and it lasted quite a while, but it came in caplet forms. It wasn't pressed into pills. I mean, it was. I'm telling you, it was I could write a whole book about the ecstasy years. But Australia, I didn't know it was legal in Australia, or you could get it. I mean, the funny thing is, there's all this other pharmacological stuff people buy over the counter, and ecstasy's the bad thing that they classified as a Schedule 1 narcotic. It was used in couples therapy. Ecstasy was primarily used in couples therapy. They'd give it to married couples that were having a bad time. Mm-hmm. All right.
But see, the thing is, it's like people aren't, again, now you're talking to somebody who's never touched a single drug, so I know nothing about it. But I mean, just from what we know, it was the usage of it that was more of a problem than anything. Like people
100%.
were using it, in the not the worst of ways, but thinking that it was akin to like some of the major drugs out there that people labeled as like substance abuse and stuff like that. People were thinking that you could mirror those highs and not knowing it's not the same thing. You know what I mean?
Right. No, and that look, if it's the problem is it makes you feel good. It's a complete substitute for your real life. Mm-hmm. I mean, look at what heroin did to music. People who are really musicians, it takes you to a different plane when you're playing music and you're that in touch when your body and your mind are in sync. That's why, heroin decimated so many jazz musicians. Because, I mean, you want that feeling, and you can either only get it one of two ways, and that's why drugs are so dangerous. Mm-hmm. Because most people aren't happy in their real lives, and drugs make them happy, and it's a fake happiness. And it's
temporary. It's like a temporary substitution type of thing. Yeah.
It's bad. It's not good. Mm-hmm. So let's finish this one out. So I am Jax12 says, if you had to point to one episode, show, or movie to explain your all's love of science fiction or fantasy, what would it be? Your pitch to a stranger.
Barbarella.
The movie with the orgasmatron?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I approve.
And the woman makes love to an angel, and she meets a bunch of guys in space, and she's floating in space, and it's really just this wonderful space sexploitation film.
And it's coming out in 4K from Arrow.
Yes.
I've pre-ordered.
That's the one I would pick.
What about you, Lael?
If I had to pick, hold on, read the question again.
If you had to point to one episode, show, or movie to explain y'all's love of sci-fi or fantasy, what would it be? Your pitch to a stranger.
Okay, so I guess I can't mention Star Wars, right?
No, you could. Why not?
Yeah, you can say that. Yes,
I mean,
you can.
because come on, it's always going to be Empire, bro. For me, Empire Strikes Back for me that's the definitive film for me. That again was the end all be all. That was my center point of science fiction. You know, even with things that I've seen before, that was the definition for me. Something that was more so, another film that I talk to you about this all the time. Like one of my favorite science fiction films outside of Star Wars was always The Black Hole. I loved that film. You know what I mean? It was just something about it that was just crazy at that time. But again, I would say like even like all of the early 80s science fiction films.
Yeah.
Battle Beyond the Stars, bro. We remember that, like, man,
Come
the
on,
Last
dude.
Starfighter. Heck yeah, bro. Heck yeah,
Saint
bro.
X-Men of the Valkyrie.
You already know that, bro. Again, the Last Starfighter. Just so many different films that spoke volumes. But again, Empire for me. That's the way it's gonna be.
For me, I'm thinking, because if I had to explain my love of something to a stranger, it would have to be the fact that science fiction has
Strange
always...
New Worlds. I knew it, bro. I knew
Oh,
that
man.
would be the film. That would be the show.
No, it would have to be something that spoke to the awe and wonder of existence in some way, shape, or form. And I would think of like Denis Villeneuve's movie Arrival with Amy Adams, when they're trying to communicate with aliens, and that whole to me, that has a sense of wonder. And I would go back, and I dare say
it was beautifully done.
Yeah, along those lines, I would go with Steven Spielberg's Close Encounters.
Yeah.
Because while a lot of people now might object to the fact that the Roy Neary, the character of Roy Neary, not played by Roy Scheider, played by Richard Dreyfuss, that character ends up leaving his family in the end to go with the aliens, and a lot of people criticize the movie for that reason now. But I think, though, that overall that film does have a hopeful bent to it. But something like Arrival, something like Close Encounters, and I would say Kubrick's 2001, because the thing about 2001 is it makes you think in geologic and cosmic terms. You literally jump in one jump cut millions of years. And the idea that it addresses issues that the universe is bigger than we are, and that there's hope. I find 2001 to be quite hopeful. But something along those lines, because you want to try and help somebody understand, well, what is it about all this? What is it about these flights of fancy? And that would be one of those things. So.
Then I would have to add that film, and I can't remember what it's called, but it's George Clooney was in the remake of it. It was
Solaris.
Yes,
yeah.
That's the one I would have to add. But that film also has like some kind of there's that intrigue in it where the alien is kind of tempting you. There's the temptation of love. Am I saying the right film?
Yeah, no, and because that film, it's based on a Polish science fiction writer's Stanislaw Lem's that story. What's really fascinating about that story is you basically have a planet that is alive, and the planet is trying to communicate, and the way it's communicating is to take the thing that you most love or that meant the most to you and recreating it. And it was George Clooney's dead wife. And in the movie, Chris Kelvin's name of the character, and the relationship that he has, and I love Solaris, and I think it's an incredibly beautiful film, and I really like Soderbergh's remake as well. I think that James Cameron produced.
Starman also has a little hint of that.
Yeah,
just
Starman does. Yeah, because Jenny Hayden's husband is recreated as Jeff Bridges. But you know what? There's a great moment in Starman when Jeff Bridges says, "What I find beautiful about your species is that you're at your best when things are worst." I always love that.
And I think that there are a lot of women out there who wouldn't mind a Starman encounter. No, I mean seriously, who want children but can't have children, and then the alien did that for her.
I have
and I
given
think
you a baby.
yes,
A baby.
yes, that too. But you know what I mean.
I do know. I do know. I know. Oh my.
It's gonna come out the wrong way. I mean, never mind. Just yes, all of it.
Well, I think that it's time to end this lovely stream. This was a crazy ass stream. Lael, where can people find you, and what do you have coming up on your channel?
Oh man, it's supposed to be. Well, I don't know if I'm doing Collectors Lounge on Sunday because I got a lot going on this weekend. So I don't know. I'll play it by ear as of tomorrow. Of course, Comic Book Talk with Friends on Monday. Say What Wednesday. Uncivilized Scoundrels on Thursday. Figure Flex Friday. I'm doing a video this weekend on Take a Position video this weekend on the Bad Batch and Oscar Reeves. I am currently I'm 145 away from 4,000 subscribers. So if you haven't already subscribed to the 1/6 Scale Man YouTube channel, make sure you do.
Come on, everybody. There's 339 people watching this show right now. Go over, subscribe to the 1/6 Scale Man on YouTube. It'll take you 2 seconds. I'm not even asking you to subscribe to this channel.
2 seconds.
Subscribe to Lael's. Get him. You guys have the power to get him over 4,000 subscribers right now.
145 away from that. That's all you gotta do is do me a solid. Head on over there, hit that subscribe button, watch some of the content. You'll definitely enjoy it. The conversations that we definitely have. Like it, even if you don't love it, you can comment and say you don't, but at least you're doing me a solid. So definitely make sure
you want this.
Yeah.
Take your Jedi weapon.
Please do. Please do.
Strike me down. With ecstasy, of course. Now everyone's going to know. Rob Burnett says he's on ecstasy all the time. No, I was on ecstasy all the time. Once a month. Remember, kids. And by the way, nothing is better than your first time. That's the best. So do it with someone you want to love.
Definitely.
If you know what I'm saying. Yeah, but see, everyone now is all stoned and nobody cares. You know, you gotta. It's sad.
Not the same, huh?
It's not the same, man. It's not the same. You gotta be present. You gotta be out there. You gotta be ready to go.
Yes, you do.
And it's always good if you go to a great. Go see Tiesto. He's now, back in the day. Now he's like the Sears of DJs, and I love Tiesto. I mean, it was back then. I listened to. I was like, "Ooh, the new Paul Oakenfold record's coming out now." And now it's all.
He's still around.
I know. Oh, I love all these guys, but like Tiesto's, he comes to his residency in Las Vegas. I'm like,
yes, I love that. And in Ibiza.
Yeah, well, that's what my dream is ecstasy in Ibiza.
Really?
Oh,
wow.
Yeah. I've never been to Ibiza.
I've never been to Ibiza either. I want to go to Space Ibiza, though, like in Andor. I want to go there.
Right, that's what it looked like. Sitting on the beach.
That's right.
Where can people find you? What do you got going on?
Well, guys, as you know, I have my YouTube channel, Positive Fandom, where I do all the parlay in the fandom. I have my Sunday Run show at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Sundays. I also have a bunch of watch parties coming up. Dark Plato and I do a historical series, where we look at historical films and we watch them, especially films that have not garnered a lot of attention. So we like to focus on those historical films, and we have discussions about them on the channel. I also am doing watch parties of SEAL Team, The Crown season. I think it's 5 or 6. The final season is coming up. So I'm going to be looking at that, as well as Napoleon. The Napoleon movie with Phoenix is coming up, and so much more. We're going to do a second freaking Turner Classic Movies tribute in November. That one's going to include The Exorcist, so that's coming up. And of course, you guys can find me on Lorena Creole's channel for Toxic Male Appreciation, our show on Thursdays at 5 p.m. And of course, you can also find me sometimes on the 1/6 Scale Man Network or on El Profesoro's channel for Uncivilized Scoundrels. So do check me out. I am 2,519 away from 4,000 subscribers. So
Ooh.
Let's go.
yes,
Let's
guys,
go.
just go to my channel. And
Let's go.
Subscribe.
Oh.
Subscribe to the channel. Well,
Make sure you do.
yeah. I mean, I don't know. Tomorrow we're not no member call tomorrow. I'm sure I'm going to do a show. I'm going to do a show with Anthony Lael. I don't know if you're doing that show tomorrow.
I'm not sure.
At 6, and then of course we've got Let's Get Physical Media this weekend. I got a bunch of weird stuff though. So
Great
yeah,
show tonight, gentlemen, great show tonight.
This was
Great show. Thank you, Tom Jr. Jackson. We were all goof people. Thank you, everybody who's a moderator tonight, and thank you, Lael and Robert.
yes, and I want to thank all the generous. Thank you for supporting this channel via super chats and tips and all those things and letters. Although I didn't have any letters. I've been getting some great letters. I want to thank everybody for sending letters, and I got more great letters to read tomorrow. Even people have written me really critical letters. They've been good, though. You know, even one that started with the subject headline, "Fuck you." I'll read it. You know what? If somebody... I look at it this way. If somebody takes the time to write me a letter, even if it's disparaging and critical, I take that as a compliment that somebody felt something enough to put pen to or fingers to keyboard to send you a letter, because you know that requires thought and foresight and effort, and even if it's something that's critical, I'm happy to read it. So you know, I don't always have to agree with it, but I'll read it and I'll give you the time of day, because I respect anybody that shares their opinion, even if it's a negative one. If it's not, I guess I'm prejudiced. If it's written down for me as an email or something, and it's well written, I'll read it. You know, sometimes they're not well written, but I do appreciate the effort that somebody cared enough to even write in. You know, if it's completely like "fuck you, you fucking fucker," I mean, maybe that's not constructive for anything. But if somebody has something good to say, I'll read it. So, and I've been getting some of those lately. What are you gonna do? But I read them and let other people opine.
And Robert, it is Rosh Hashanah. Am I correct?
It is. Yeah. We're going into the high holy. These are the high holy days, and but the time between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur are the days of awe. And I've always loved Yom Kippur as a holiday, Yom Kippur, because the whole idea is the Day of Atonement for Judaism, which I've always liked this, is that you have to go before God and you have to admit your sins. You're not absolved of your sins, but you have to admit them. And you have to say, but it's between you and God, but that's what the Day of Atonement is all about. That you have to confront, and it's up to you to be honest and say, this is what I've done, this is what I'm atoning for, and you do not get absolved. The whole point is that you recognize what it is that you've done and you reflect on it, and hopefully you'll not do it next year. But I always liked that idea. And the days of awe, I always thought that was even as a kid, I'm like, that's a good idea for a holiday. So that's Yom Kippur. But on that note, do I have to atone for the times I did ecstasy and liked it? I don't know. Hey, God gave you serotonin for a reason. Am I right?
Yeah, and that's between you and God.
That's right. Yeah, and he's going, you know, son, while humanity did figure out a way to create a drug to do that, and I did put the serotonin in your body, I don't think putting the two together is really what I was looking for. But, you know, I'll pat you on the back for your ingenuity. Okay. So, but anyway, I don't think he'd absolve me of that one. Maybe he would. Maybe he would have said, well, who'd you do it with? That was my point. You never know. Could be. It's like transparent aluminum. How do we know he didn't invent the thing?
That's true.
That's right.
You never know.
All right, kids, you guys go to bed.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, and see you next week. Same time. You already know.
Yes. All right. Good evening, and I hope you guys subscribe to them. I want to say thank you to my lovely cohorts, Lael and Mmmm, for being here. because they're great, and I want to thank you guys. And okay, no, this will not be the night when we go random and we go to 3 o'clock in the morning. So for those of you who are new to the channel, I haven't done it in a while, bring on randos. I call you guys randos. I love you all, meaning random people. Nobody that it's scheduled. I would send out the link, and whoever wanted to could just jump on and we'd talk. Now, a lot of the time, I would do that, as you might notice, because I was getting hammered on this show. I haven't been doing that, and for no other reason than sometimes I'll even take like 2 years off drinking. I'll just stop drinking for 2 years. I was getting fat. I was getting slurring the words, drinking too much. Now I'm getting back in shape, drinking a lot of water, and so I'm not getting plastered on this show like I used to. Maybe that makes me less fun. I don't know. But that's kind of why I haven't been doing the rando thing, but we should, because people keep asking me. And it is fun. You never know who's going to show up, and there's a lot of you that I miss from staying up late night and doing these late night shows. But perhaps maybe tomorrow night we'll do a Midnight Metal. We'll do a rando. So Midnight Metal was a different iteration of this show, but maybe we should do that. Do a Midnight Metal where it's just all random. You know what? I like this idea. So tomorrow night, maybe I'll start at 9 and we'll do a random show where I just bring you guys on. But so you have to have a pretty good lighting, a good microphone, and a good camera. And we'll do that. Let's do a night of the randos, where I'm just going to bring whoever wants to come on this show live. So you'll be broadcast out over the internet, yeah, and we can talk about anything you want. It'll be like an Ask Me Anything, but you'll be live and we'll be talking to each other. So we'll do something like that. That'd be cool. We haven't done that in a while. Maybe that's what I'll do. I'll do a Midnight Metal with randos. That's what we'll call it. And on that note, I think I'm going to have to cut this off and say goodbye. It's been a great show. Once again, thank you to Tom Jr. Jackson for being Tom Jr. Jackson, because it's been great. And again, thanks for everybody for supporting the channel. It was another fun show. You just never know what we're going to talk about. I do know we're always going to talk about Star Wars, though. I know that. I know that's going to happen. And on that note, remember, every person you meet has a story to tell that you have yet to hear. And all you have to do is listen. And with that, I'd say to all of you, have a better night.